Hello, welcome to the second podcast, and it's with Panda, a man of many talents, including we found talking and unfolding and unpacking life in serious depth. So I really hope you enjoy this one. Make sure you go follow and check out the other stuff that he's worked on down below in the description. Again, hope you enjoy this one. Take care, keep well. Let's go. It's too right,
It's a
man.
whole other side of them. Yeah, that's true. I think that's definitely true. It's a whole other side to streaming. I think. Yeah, and it is like with any sort of form of entertainment. Like you're at some point you can be real. Like it's better to be real than to be fake, obviously.
Mm.
But then you also see those people that are putting on they're playing a character in their stream. Like Doctor Disrespect isn't. I doubt. I don't. I'm not saying that he is like. I'm not saying he's fake. I'm saying I doubt he's like that 24/7, like how he is on the stream. Like at some point he's got to be relaxed and cool down and like step away, disconnect from that sort of person character, because otherwise it envelops you as a person, and then you lose your own identity,
Mm.
and you're
100%.
yeah, you just become this character that everyone wants you to play. Same way like actors, they actually play when they play a role, they're playing a role on camera, but then when they're off camera, they're not that same person.
Mm. But I think there's also an aspect of authenticity that we're really attuned to as humans, right? We can
Yeah,
see if people are kind of, even if we watch them for even a period of an hour, it's hard to put an act on without slipping. And the
yeah,
moment we
yeah, yeah.
pick up on that is kind of the point in which we lose that very connection we came to Twitch for the first place in the first place.
I think that's where
Right.
Twitch is different to any other kind of entertainment channel in a way,
Mm.
because you look in there for pure authenticity. And a
Mm.
lot of these people, they're talking from the heart. They're talking from straight from what they're thinking.
Yeah.
There's no editing. There's no filter. There's nothing. It's just straight. Whatever they say
Yeah,
comes
yeah.
out the other end.
Except
Kind of.
Clubhouse, if you've not heard of it. Have you heard of Clubhouse before? The social media app.
No, might have heard of it. I think.
So
Let me
I've been
look
trying
up.
to get an invite for the last 9 months, and only yesterday I was able to get one. It's invite only.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, it's kind of like an exclusive thing. But you literally drop in. The idea is it's like an open dinner table of discussion on any topic you can imagine, and you can jump in and listen into it. And if you want, you can
Ah.
request to be invited to chat, and it's quite cool, bro.
So when you get invited, that's it. Once you're invited, you're in, or do you have to keep getting invited?
Oh, once you're invited, it means you get into the app.
Okay.
Yeah, you get into
Oh,
the
okay,
app.
okay.
But then once you enter a room, then you're not necessarily at the table or the stage. So yeah,
Oh, okay.
it's quite weird because you end up talking about
It's
deep
definitely a different
topics.
one. Yeah, I've
Mm.
never heard of. I mean, the only time I've ever heard of an invite something only like that is you remember when OnePlus One came out, the first ever OnePlus One came out,
One
and
plus
it
one.
was you had to have a special like invite code. You had to have a special code that only you get
Yeah, yeah, the phone.
from other people that for the phone to
Mm.
get that phone. Like you couldn't get the phone buying in normal retailers or anything like that. So that level of exclusivity, that's what it reminds me of. And I'm like,
Mm.
in my mind, I was thinking that's not a great way to market, because then you're cutting off all the people that want to see or want to get the phone,
Yeah,
right? But then at the
yeah,
same time, you're building that level of, oh, it's so exclusive that only these top people can get it, and it gives that. It's like having a designer brand basically, and
mm.
without even trying, you've got a designer brand automatically.
Mm.
Which and then now OnePlus One blew up like crazy. They just went like they have now OnePlus 8 now. It's
Mm.
just how far they've gone, just from that invite only thing. Now it's not invite only. Now you can buy the phone outright.
Yeah, yeah. But it was
But yeah,
definitely that like a leverage to get people talking about the brand, you know?
yeah, I think it's something to get them talking, which I never understood at first, and now I
Mm.
understand it.
Mm.
When you just told me about the clubhouse, it kind of reminded me of that, and I was like, okay, so it
Mm.
actually could work.
Yeah. Or major shortage saying, yeah, mind games. Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing though. The thing is what we're talking about in Clubhouse, like it's really nerve-wracking. Like going there and then seeing like pictures of 20 people, like randoms from all over the world, and then going to pitch, like introduce yourself, share an opinion. Like I was stumbling all over the place and everything because I was like, at first
I
because
was,
it's nerve-wracking, bro, and these people are well spoken because they're very articulated, they're well articulated. They've been on the
yeah,
platform for a long time. It's and it's such a powerful networking tool because it's in its infancy, and because the discussions are really encouraged to be like over the table. Mate, I was this morning. I spent 4 hours talking about marketing strategy with the what's it? I think she's the co-producer of Big Nasty Show on BBC.
Oh,
Yeah, so
I don't know the co-producer, but I know of the Big Nasty Show. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So she was
Oh,
there,
nice.
in this room with a bunch of like East London and some Manchester lads and girls. And what's it? There was like another BBC radio DJ and just people that are sharing ideas and saying, yeah, you know what, we can do like a collaboration, or I can give you a shout out on my platform. And it was just there and live, mate. Like everyone was just, having a turn to pitch, talking about their ideas, talking about their vision, and then having these people back them up, share ideas, opinions. And I was like, wow, like just from that, you know, I myself gained like quite a few followers on the platform, gained so many insights, and literally an hour after down the line of that meeting, someone popped back in and was like, yo, I heard someone on Twitter heard about us talking about my is it financial services website, and they were saying they heard about it from some breakfast show, which was like literally the room that we're
Oh,
in. So she literally grabbed like a client that morning. And
wow. Oh,
bro,
that's very good then.
but the thing is, the impressive thing wasn't the achievements that these people had made. It was how they were interacting. You know what I mean? It was like I entered a room full of brothers and sisters. I'm not gonna lie, bro. The moment I spoke about my vision and my goals, they were backing it like a brother. They were backing it like family, and they were sharing ideas, and they were following and sharing. And I was like, okay, wow, this platform is different because you see a different, unfiltered side of people. You know what I mean? It's like a
Yeah,
yeah, it's
like this is that's like the same. Say the same thing with Twitch, right? You see their true self. You don't see
mm,
like an act they're putting on, right?
yeah, hundred
So it's
percent.
so you're getting their real authentic self as
Mm,
opposed to just a character they're playing or just a persona that they're playing basically.
yeah.
Which well, that's really good then, because I mean something like that works well hand in hand with Twitch, I guess. If
Mm.
you're a Twitch streamer, then it kind of works well that you go on this platform.
Yeah, yeah, it's all about community and connecting with like-minded people in it. Right,
How many people are on Clubhouse? Let me see that
bro,
actually.
there's loads, mate. I mean, there's they're trying to get a lot of celebrities in there, isn't it? And
Yeah, make them.
again, it's all this whole sort of thing that it's FOMO, isn't it? We got celebrities on there. You're missing out on the conversations that aren't recorded. That's the other
Yeah.
thing, the conversations happen live. They're not recorded. They're not, snippeted or captured. You're either in or you're out. You're either in the conversation or you're out the conversation. When the conversation's done, what's shared is shared. You know what I mean?
No, okay, okay, yeah, I see.
So it's really
That's good
big
then.
on the.
Yeah, I just checking now. They got 600. They just surpassed 600,000 users.
Mm.
And when did this app start? Like
I think it must have been early 2020, if not earlier. I think Gary
20?
Vaynerchuk.
Yeah, it says spring 2020.
Mm.
Wow, that's really like that's crazy. And wait, Gary Vonchek, what did he do?
So
Vaynerchuk, sorry.
he's a big like sort of media consultant.
Yeah, 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 I follow him
So
on Instagram as well. Like, yeah.
yeah, so he was the one who kind of highlighted it to me. He was like, "This is going to be big," and he's
Okay. Does
obviously
he have a does he have a stake in it? Because I feel like this is something he would definitely like have a
mm,
stake in or have some ownership in it.
I wouldn't be surprised if he invested in it, like Snapchat or
Yeah.
all the other platforms he kind of picked up on. I was sitting at one of his talks actually yesterday night as well. That's why I haven't had enough sleep. I was saying I was a bit tired. I had 3 hours sleep today.
Oh damn. Okay. Yeah. No, I can feel how tired you are then, because that's crazy.
No, but yeah, so he's on the platform. He's definitely backing it. But he was talking about
Okay.
trading cards. He's talking
Oh yeah,
about
yeah, yeah. I've seen he goes on, like, he goes to garage sales, and I see him just buying these like trading cards that people are selling really cheap because they want to get rid of it and they don't see the value of it. He goes and flips it for like 500% profit. I'm like, that's crazy. Like, to do just like, okay, fair enough, it's like $2 or whatever, and then you flip it for $10. That's still crazy profit for just that same product. You're not spending anything more than that. You're not spending on marketing or anything else, product packaging, whatever. You're just buying and selling. That's it. Like,
bro,
as if it was stock space. It's
exactly,
crazy. He's
mate.
very good at that, and it makes me inspired to do that.
Mate, he grinds. That's it. It's bread and butter. Buy a banana for £1, sell it for £1.10. You
I'm
make
50.
10p.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
Like that's the game. And the thing is, I didn't realize, but I was watching a lot of streamers as well starting to unbox cards. And bro, it's a
Mm.
real thing. Like there's grading. So you not only you get a rare card, but someone goes and inspect it. I think there's I forget, there's an inspection place in America. Like it's a 4 month waiting list to get your card inspected. And they
Oh
grade it
wow.
based on how well aligned it is to the card. Like they use a microscope and they grade it. So like a 9.5 and a
Seriously?
10, yeah. So this streamer, I was like, yo, how much is this card? Because she got bare happy. She was like, if it's graded 9.5, it's about $500. If it's graded a 10, then I'm looking at a grand and a half. And I was like,
What?
yo, this is just some Pokemon trainer I've never heard about before. So I jumped onto
Yeah.
Gary's thing this morning. He was talking about collecting LeBron James, what's the other
The
one?
basketball.
Jordan. He was like, he
Yeah.
bought them for 300,000, man. three hundred thousand
300.
dollars a card graded.
Damn.
I think one was 9.5, the other was 10,
Yeah.
and that now the current market price is 600,000.
Shit.
Mate, like insane. Trading cards is like the new thing. It's the
I
new
think
thing.
I've heard that. So like Pokemon cards, I remember I'm assuming you collected Pokemon cards as well. Like I collected
Yeah,
Pokemon cards
a
when I was
few.
younger,
I won't.
and
Yeah.
I had quite a few, and I've lost ever since I lost them. I've been actually frustrated because now I see other
Mm.
people, and I'm posting on Instagram and stuff, and they actually post the value of the cards, and I'm like, I'm sure I have a similar card to like that, or I have something to that level of rarity as well, and it
Mm.
goes for like thousands, hundreds, if not hundreds of thousands, and I'm like, that's crazy money for a piece of card.
Mm.
And it's all supply and demand. Like it's demand for that rare card or that one of a kind card. It's ridiculous. Like
Mate.
how much it can go for.
That's the value though, isn't it? That's the nostalgia aspect of it. It's like everyone was like, fuck, like that was the card I had when I was a kid. But you know what?
Exactly.
I want the experience of owning it again. Well, there's a lot less now, and everyone's had a few years of the working career. So the
Yeah,
price is gonna be a bit healthier.
bumped
I
up.
like,
Yeah,
but that's what you're
it
paying
is.
for.
It's a growing market. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Trading cards, even
Mm.
like the match tag cards, they go for quite a bit. The um, Yu-Gi-Oh. I think even Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I remember I was heavy into Yu-Gi-Oh when I was younger.
Mm.
That those could go for quite a bit. I remember even when I was into Yu-Gi-Oh, when I was in high school and I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh, people were actually still selling cards there. So they'd buy packs of cards,
Yep.
try and find a rare one, sell that off, make the money back from the pack cards, try and sell off whatever they could. Even people were buying like sleeves and stuff. So sleeves you could put the cards in,
Mm.
which to me right now I'm thinking, God, that's true hustling right there. Because to buy something that like that and to be able to sell it is at the time you don't think about it because you're all just kids and you're just buying. You like to buy stuff. You don't really think about money. But
Mm.
if you're an adult, you think back now and you're like, damn, you're an idiot to buy it. You're a genius to sell it. Like it's that
Yes.
kind of mentality.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
that's what they tell you. Don't buy unnecessary stuff, but at the same time, sell these unnecessary stuff because people will buy it.
Mm. Yeah, man.
It's kind of like you got to sort of play both sides in a way.
Absolutely. But it's shocking. It's shocking to see the money it is, bro. Like six figures. Wait, he gave a bit of a gold mine of a place to buy them. I think I saved it on my bookmarks. If I can put it out here, at least I can offer whoever's on here some value in it as to
Are
what
you
the
able to?
trading cards
I was
were.
gonna say your screen looks like it's cropped out on the
Yeah, I think it's
top there,
cropped out. I can't even get.
just for the just for where the Google bit is. I don't know, but I mean, let's see how. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Let's see. So if it goes on to here, Linktree, features, theory. I'll find it. I'll find it and show it back on the main screen. But mate, and obviously eBay's a power tool, man, because that is like the ultimate indicator of price.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
and a lot of people use that for trade. I mean, I remember. So my first experience using eBay to sell something was my dad's car. He had a
mm,
old Nissan van, like a people carrier. And it's like a what he used back when he was catering, and he'd carry like it's a big van. He bought it for about £250,
mm,
which is very dirt cheap off one of our uncles who owns a garage. So we bought it off that 250. We used it for a few years, quite a long time actually.
damn.
And then it was time to sell it. So he's like to me, just sell it whatever price comes, just to get rid of it, because the whole point was to get rid of it. We didn't really care. It was 250 we bought it for.
Mm,
If we got some money from it, doesn't really matter. So I put it on there, and I put it on bid, and I started at £100.
yep.
And I kid you not, it went to £500. So
Wow.
I doubled something that I had used for a couple of years, and then sold it for £500. So we were so confused, and it was cash in hand as well.
Yeah.
So the guy, I wasn't there at the time when the guy came to collect the car. My dad was there, and he told me how it went down. And he's like, my dad wanted to ask, "Were you going to use the car for?" Just out of curiosity. And the guy goes, "The parts." And I'm
Right.
like, he doesn't actually care about the actual car itself. He's not using it. He just wants to strip the parts and do something with it or sell it off, and he's going to make some money. So he probably saw the value of that car and said, "Oh, I could get it for." He probably thought 500 was cheap for him. It's worth it for us. Obviously, we could have asked for more, but that's like overplaying your hand as well. Also the other thing that people struggle with is like trying when you're selling something, you don't want to overplay your hand and then lose that person, lose that customer, or lose that person that could have bought it. That's the fine line you got to work out. Like you could say set a price really high, but then that means no one's going to buy it because they know that there's going to be something cheaper. So you got to sort of play it to the field, basically.
Yeah. I mean,
That's yeah. Sorry, go on.
no, no. One of my managers always told me that there was like, because for me, on projects, the big thing's profitability, isn't it? So
Yeah,
they're always
yeah.
like, you got to know your market price and you got to know your cost. That's the truth of anything. Whether you're buying, selling, whether you're employing someone, whether you're taking a project on and you've got to employ resources, or you're running your Twitch stream and you're investing
Yeah.
500 quid into a camera. Like, how much is your Twitch stream actually paying you back? Like,
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
know,
You got to look at who you got to do your research before you do anything. Like that goes out without saying. Like anything you do, you still got to do it, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't research. You still have to research. Like you said, research your Twitch. Like, is it worth it? The cost effectiveness of your Twitch stream, or are you gonna make money back from whatever you're selling, etc. Like you got to research the product you're giving, basically, or the service you're providing, because then only by you knowing what you're worth or what your product or service is worth can you actually then be able to compete with other people.
yeah. And
That is a tricky thing.
but then also like the thing you shared about the value of the intangible, right? That experience
Yeah,
of selling, that experience of negotiating and realizing the other opportunity behind breaking a car as opposed to selling it as whole.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
that's the intangible value of us maybe investing in our stream a little bit, getting to know the industry, getting to know the habit, getting
yeah,
to
yeah,
express ourselves openly on a live platform like this, exploring these
yeah.
different formats. Like, I think 20s to 30s, that's when you can throw a huge sort of emphasis on the intangibles when it comes to the value. Like, which,
That's true. I mean, I understand that bit. Like it's the perfect time to start is between your 20s to 30. When you're young. Obviously, the younger you are, the better because you got that more time to then develop and work on it, and you're obviously you got a lot more time to then spend the whatever the outcome is from that. But saying that, like, there's also I see a lot of this. Even Gary says this as well. Like, and I see it on lots of different platforms and different people's posts. Like they say, "Oh, it doesn't matter whether you're 60 and just starting starting your own business, or whether you're 20 and you're just getting out of college or whatever, and you're just like trying to find your place. Like." Everyone's got their own path to take on. Like, you can't compare yourself to Steve Jobs. You can't compare yourself to someone else. You can only compare yourself to your previous self. So whether you've improved from your previous self, and that's the key thing. Like, you can't be going, oh, I'm 25 right now. They're Twitch streamers my age or younger than me. Like, even I see all these Twitch streamers, all these YouTubers, and they're making millions and hundreds of thousands, whatever they're making. They're making loads of money. They're happy about it. But at the same time, they've had a different upbringing than you. They've had a different path to you. Their life has gone a different way. So you just got to be like, okay, I can start it now. Let me start it now. Like, you should use that as a way for you to motivate yourself to go, okay, let me start it now. Like, don't let it demotivate you. If you want to start doing something, if you want to start selling something, or you start doing a service, or providing a service, or if you want to start your own business of some kind, or your own creative path, you need to put in the effort. It's all on you. It's never like, oh, I see these other people, I don't think I can do it, kind of thing. Like, it can get, don't get me wrong, I've felt frustrated. Like, this Twitch stream so far, I've only been doing it for like 3 months, and 4 months now. Oh god, I don't even remember when I started, but I'll don't get me wrong, the first month and a bit was a bit hit and miss because I was still fiddling around. I was using my MacBook Pro.
Yep.
I was like, okay, just doing simple streams. It was okay. It kept crashing from time to time, and I get a bit flustered from time to time. But now, like, I've learned from that mistake. I go, okay, I'm gonna upgrade my PC. I'm going to upgrade my setup. There's little things I try and research, little things that I need to upgrade and what I need to do in order to make myself better.
Yeah.
And that has helped me a lot. Especially like, and I'll say, you've helped me. Like, I know you started around the same time as me, maybe just a bit later than me, but like watching you stream and watching how you, and talking to you as well, your process and everything has helped me improve. Like, I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't have got to where I am right now if it wasn't for you in my Twitch career, even though it's still developing. But
Bro, this is exactly why I wanted to raise this topic with you. By the way, love in the chat from Sarge, you're saying preach, mate, because you were really laying off some truths there. It's so true. But yeah, man.
I didn't realize I was just speaking. I didn't even know what I was saying.
In the flow, but real credits to you because you were the very reason I got into this. You know what I mean? That first group, game, that quads game, and you're like, Panda, and my guy was like, you're a streamer. I was like, yo, what's this about? And I was like,
I'm gonna say shout out to Saj for a sec. Like, he's the one, like, man. We know each other through him, innit? It's like small world.
Flipping plug, I'm gonna cry. This is deep. I know. You know what? I want to take it deeper because I know you, and I know Sarge, like yourself, Panda, is like a creator. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're behind the camera. You're there making other people look good. You're making other, But this, like, for you, what was that transition to make that switch? Because you're on the other side of that camera now. And I think Sarge had also been through a similar process. Maybe you can jump on a third man call sometime with us. But
yeah, I mean, you can definitely try and get him on.
But yeah, what was that transition for you, bro? Because that's
for me personally. So like so I'll be honest with you, I started a YouTube channel. The Black Panda Man YouTube channel. I started that back in 2015, like 8 years ago, 9 years ago now.
Yeah.
And my aim was to do YouTube videos on Call of Duty. That was my aim because I'd seen like Syndicate and I seen this other YouTuber, and I'm like, I want to do that, and I can see that as a growing market. I wanted to do it, and if I had carried that on, I could have been a lot further than I was now. That's not to say like I'm so angry that I didn't get to do it earlier. Like, it's a regret. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, it's like, okay, you've gone one way, but you can't be angry at the path you went because you got something out of that path. And I still love the path that I went on because I met some good people. I've made some really good friends. I definitely don't regret that. That's one way, and it could have been a whole different path if I'd carried on doing YouTube at that young age. But at the same time, so now I'm like starting it up again, and I'm trying to push it out. And I'm thinking to myself, like, if I had started this younger, I would have been right now where I'm at. I would have been so much more comfortable. But now it's like, okay, I'm starting now. I've just got to carry it on and then push and never give it up. That's the thing. I don't want to give this up because if I do, then everything I put into it so far would have been a waste.
Yeah.
So that's the key. Like, for me, that's the key thing is when I was like living a life of anonymity, if you want, like if you want to say, like, I don't want to be in front of a camera. I didn't want people tagging me. Like, I told like to people, like, if they tag me in posts, they got to be private themselves. I'd rather like not have it public. So I was on my personal account, also private, which it is right now still. So I have a separate public account because I don't want to mix the two. At the same time, I do want to broadcast myself. I don't want to broadcast every aspect of my life.
Sure.
Which some people do, which fair enough, I get they want to do. But at the same time, you've got to find that balance because if you put your whole life out there forward, it's very easy to then get scrutinized by people. It's easy to like give in so easily to the community. So like you post out something personal on Instagram, for instance, then you'll get 1,000 comments or 100, however many you get, many comments saying, oh, this, that, and the other, trying to bring. There'll always be people to bring you down. That's going to be the nature of of mankind. We always, on the internet, it's going to happen. You're going to end up bringing people down. But the key is to like have a part of you separate. The same way how you have a work life and your personal life, you got to keep those two separate. Because if you bring your work life home and you start mixing the two together, it can be chaotic for your mental health as well. Mental health is a big thing, like right now, especially everyone being locked down, everyone being stuck at home, working from home. It affects mental health much more. And I remember like reading statistics last year. This happened last year, towards the end of the year, October. I'm reading the statistics since lockdown in the UK. The number of suicides have actually increased, and mainly in men as well. And obviously, mental health in men is something that's such a unspoken thing. That's never like it's that whole thing. You got to man up, or you got to be you got to be like very butch, not butch. Sorry, like how did I say? Like you got to put aside your emotions. Like you can't be in tune with your emotions. You have to be stronger than that. Which, okay, I can understand the idea that you've got to be uh, like you've got to be yourself. You've got to be emotionally strong, but at the same time, not everyone's built the same way. You can't expect someone to be so butch at the same time as being in touch with their emotions. Like this, sometimes it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
And the number of suicides have increased, and it's shocking that we don't talk about it as much.
Yeah.
And
I think
it does affect it.
Long also was resonating just on
Oh,
that point as well. Like, yeah, sorry, the suicides. It's also
yeah, yeah.
happening in the US.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, see, I didn't know if it was happening anywhere else. This was just a statistics I read in the UK. But I guess in the US have a similar demographic to the UK anyway, and it has a similar, like, people have a similar sort of way of living there. Same with the US. It's the Western way of living. And I know in Asian cultures now, like, I mean, I don't know if this is the same in every single Asian culture, but I know in Asian culture, mental health is like this thing that they don't talk about, or they don't know about. It doesn't exist to them. So if you talk to your parents' generation, or even older, they don't. They go, "Oh, are you a bit down?" Then they just say "man up," or in whatever way the colloquial way they say it. They say, "Oh, get over it,"
That's
right?
it. Yeah, bite your
And
tongue,
that
carry on.
exactly, and that's bad for you. Like being brought up like that, and it's not their fault. It's the way they've been brought up. Same way you can't blame your parents for thinking one way or having one point of view, because that's the way they've been brought up. Especially if they've come from another country, like that's their way of thinking.
Yeah.
But it is a serious issue, and I think our generation needs to tackle that. Like at some point, like we can't be leaving it, because this lockdown's going to keep going. This whole coronavirus, this whole getting stuck in, not being able to go on holiday, not like a lot of people. You never realize how much you take things for granted, like going out, even just going to the park and meeting up with friends. You never realize how much you take that for granted.
Mate, yeah. The simple things.
And it does affect you. Yeah, the simple things.
Mate.
But yeah, so I've realized I just diverted my whole point into mental health, but like
No, mate, it's
the whole.
it's all relevant, you know. It's all
But yeah.
cohesive. Like that's what we were experiencing, and that's why it's so daunting, because there's all
Yeah.
this interconnected shit that's been dumped on us all of a sudden.
Exactly, and that's like for me, like when I decided to go on camera, before when I was not on camera and I was like keeping myself incognito, I was like, that was the main reason why, because I just was worried, like not worried about how people view me, but worried that I wouldn't be able to take it, and I was worried for my own mental health, so I didn't do that, and I was just trying to like keep myself covered. But now I've got to a point where I'm one, mature enough to know how to handle myself, and two, I can like I can just give in enough to show myself, but not too much of myself that everything's on show. Like for some people that can be okay, and some other people it might not be. Everyone's different. Again, like I said, like everyone's different in their own way. But at the same time, if I've seen people, like this is anecdotal as well. Like if you see famous people that they start off their career really young and their whole career has been on camera,
Yeah.
that can affect their mental health, and it affects them, and you see them end up going into drugs, going into depression, suicide, etc. All that stuff is leading on from that, and that's why they say like child actors and child performers, they all get it's always a bad ending for them. There's kind of that stereotype that happens that spawns from that, basically.
Mate, 100%. I resonate with that, and it's an interesting point you brought up, because the discussion I had with Mikey that you were joining in for in the chat, Long's also he's just added as well.
Yeah,
mental health has been rough. Speciality has been rough, especially
Among
school age kids, teenagers, and the absence of in-person.
Yeah. You never. I agree with that. I agree with that, Mr. Long.
So I mean that's the point, because as kids you've got a task to do, and especially from our experience, like we relate it to be an Asian thing. Like I'm sure it happens in other cultures as well, but it's like that's your job to do. Like, you know, get your studies and get sorted. Whatever you have to do it. And this is a lot of it now is we have an addiction to dopamine, right? We want our dopamine hits, and the first time made sense because I went through the whole journey of alcohol and other drugs and all sorts of, you know, stimulants. Why do we need stimulants? Is because we've numbed ourselves. We've ignored a part of ourselves that said we didn't want to do it. You know, we've suppressed these feelings, you know, that were showing us physically, you know, this is not right at this moment, or we're missing some rest. And so we depress it. And that's what depression is. It's a depression of a feeling that we ignore.
and our body all of a sudden becomes insensitive to that. So to re-feel that, to reconnect with our feelings, we need stimulants, whether that be drugs, whether it be a shitload of games that keep firing our neural impulses. Like, that's why we're hungry for this now, because we've gone through a process of where we needed to depress and suppress all of these things and try and recover that experience that we've conditioned out of ourselves through all these other things that have come through, you know, whether it be consumerism. And another thing that I got this from, Gabor Mate, by the way, he's a clinical GP that went into psychology and kind of wanted to connect everything. He said, you know, one thing that really sparked like my connection of that narrative was it's about recovery. When you're going through a process of recovery, you're trying to recover those parts that you've suppressed. So that was like, man, that was a light bulb moment for me. It was like, why am I feeling depressed? Why am I feeling I need all these external things to re-stimulate myself? It's because I've been through a process where I've ignored enough of myself. I need to go through that process again to recover them. And I think that's what a lot of people have realized, you know. Yeah, because you can chase it through work. You can chase it and delude it through a pseudo purpose, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the biggest, like you said, the dopamine hit. I think the biggest like way we get that is actually the social aspect, which I'm just looking at the chat now. Mr. Long just brought up, which is so true. Which is why school kids and teenagers and even university students, they're affected the most, because they're most of their day is spent in school with other kids. They're spent hanging out with their friends, right? They're spent hanging out. They're not stuck with their parents. When you're a kid, you don't realize how much you realize these experiences shape you and develop you as a person, your maturity levels, your intelligence, your experiences are make you who you are, right? So if you're not at school, or if you even, it doesn't necessarily have to be at school, if you're not with a group of people that you hang out with, even just a different bunch of people, you're seeing these people on a different day-to-day basis. If you're not seeing them after that and you're stuck in between, literally in four walls for 8 hours a day just looking at a screen, it's damaging to your mental health, damaging to your brain development as well, especially at a young age. Like you're still growing up to the age of 21. Your body, your entire body is still growing at some point, at some level, till the age of at least 21, maybe 23. It ranges for different people, but your brain is still developing at that point. So when you're not hanging out, when you're not socializing, the social aspect of school, when you don't get that in your prime days, which is like your high school days, so between the ages of like 10 and above to 18 or something, you're missing out on this key social skills, people skills, your communication skills, all those kind of things are being left out, and that's going to hinder that. We've got now a generation of kids that are going to be so like out of tune with those kind of skills when they get to the working age, because now they don't have those skills, and it's going to be harder for them to get jobs. It's going to be harder for them to be able to do what they want to do. Now, I'm not saying every kid's going to be like that, but it's going to affect definitely a substantial amount of kids. And that's why I think they should, like, this is where our government, I actually don't know what's happening in other countries in terms of their rules, but our government's actually messing up, and is they're only allowing okay, fair enough, they're allowing only the key workers kids to go to school, but the way they're handling the school criteria and the school curriculum in these online lessons is very bad. Like, they only just recently, like, sports is also a big thing. Like, sports should also be implemented some way or another in these online classes at some point. Like, I get that not every kid has space. Like, if you look at my room, it's a box room. I don't have space to just jump about and move about like that, so I'm technically just stuck sitting around for ages. But like, for those that can, they should be encouraged to do that. They should be encouraged to play something or do something in the time that they get, because being stuck in a room 8 hours long, you're just, how do I say, it's like really bad for you. At some point, you need to take that break. That's why you get breaks. We get 3 breaks in school, right? 3 breaks at school at least, just to give you that break from studying. You can't be. There's only so much information you can absorb at once. Before you have to like relax yourself and then come back into it. Yeah, it's actually huge. So Mr. Long's point about the absence of in-person classes for school kids and teenagers is really bad.
Damn, that's a whole dynamic I never even really thought about. And that's definitely going to manifest down the line, bro. Because for us, how big a learning process, at least for me, was it as a kid, the aspect of play? Like for
Yeah.
me, my play was like, okay, you know, you go and play and you learn through the process of play, like, oh, that's too far, you know. Oh, okay, you stepped over the
Yeah.
line there, you know, you hurt, you know, Tom's feelings, or, you know,
Yeah.
you didn't, you left him out. Like that whole process, this is the trial and error where we start to learn. Like that aspect of it is kind of gone in it for a lot of
We're
kids at the
we're
moment.
one of the few, yeah, we're one of the few creatures in the animal kingdom that we live, that we need not just food, water, and air. We need socializing. Socializing is such a huge thing because we can't live as hermits and stuff, because then we actually we definitely wouldn't be able to survive as a human race if we were all separate from each other.
Mm,
Getting closer together, being socializing with each other is how we grow. We share ideas, share any thoughts that develop everyone at the same rate. We need that in order to grow. Like we wouldn't have got from where we were where the life expectancy was like 50 back in the 1700s to now it's 70 plus at the moment.
mm,
So that only came through socializing. It didn't come through us living separate lives and separate, like completely cut off from everyone else. And so that's why it's a big impact, this, especially this virus has had on us, is the whole socializing aspect. We literally take that for granted, which is, I've definitely have taken it for granted as well. I know that for sure. Like you talk with your friends online and you're like, oh, we wish we could do this, or wish we can go on holiday, or wish we can at least, like, we're looking back at our memories and going, oh, we did this, but we can't do it now. And it's it does hurt your mental health in that sense as well. That's also a big thing.
mm.
But yeah, I'm just reading Mr. Long's comment
Yeah,
that
he's
I've noticed
talking about
personally.
motivation. This biggest hit
Mm.
whilst I've been doing online learning.
Yeah,
Resonate with that, bro. I think
yeah,
motivations, again, there's a whole level of depth you uncover with motivation, right? Because the motivation when you were a kid was to study hard, at least for me, was to study hard, get a good job, and then, you know, live a good life.
mm,
But then being past that stage of formal education and being through 8 different jobs, um, you kind of realize, yeah, the motivation's got to continue to come from somewhere deeper than that. Like, it's too surface level. I don't know. I'm probably not making sense here, but I I resonate with that. Are you saying, is it specifically highlighted now because it's gone online? Like, did you not feel it so much when? I think, you know
I
what,
think.
actually,
I,
that reminds me of the big time when I'm with Sarge in the chat as well. I'm not sure if you're still here, bro, but a big part of it was being in the same room, in the same struggle as people. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
grinding the libraries together, knowing that we all had to get through it. Shout out to Sarge again. Yes, my main man. You know what I mean? Like those days when you weren't feeling and you're feeling shit, bro, I feel it, man. Because if I resonate back to the struggle then and how much I relied on having guys like Sarge, like all the lads like who are with us in uni that kept us together and kept us focused, bro, that element is all gone when you're by yourself and learning it through a screen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, for
So,
sure. I mean,
flip,
for some
yeah,
people that does work. Like online learning can,
Ashwin as
that
well,
people
bro.
can do that.
Sorry, bro. I
Yeah.
didn't not gonna forget you. I didn't know you're here, brother. But yeah, thank you. I've still got Ashwin's notes. You know, I owe that guy his notes back.
Oh my god,
I'm sorry, bro. I'm
one of
sorry.
those, one
Please
of those
tell me.
guys. But yeah, no, no. The like online learning definitely, like, because you even if you don't understand the work or you don't like the subject, you still go into school because you want to see your friends, and
Mm,
that's one form of motivation to be in there. And even if you're not physically, like, literally paying attention, it's still, you're still hearing it. So in the back of your mind, you've got it subconsciously. Um, but I think it's harder for kids to concentrate when they're at home because it's not something they're used to. They're used to go to school, like wake up, go to school, and then carry out a routine that they do at school. And it's easier to, I think the school environment for them is easier to learn than at home.
mm,
Uh, Not saying that every kid's like that, but like some kids, they're homeschooled. Like clearly it works for some kids. It doesn't work for every kid. But
mm.
now that everyone's stuck at home, it's very hard, and especially if you live like with a noisy family, or you live with a very hectic family that you can't concentrate for too long. Whereas if you're at school, your teacher forces you to concentrate for an hour at least. Whereas at home, it might not be that same problem, and you struggle. That's when you then start slipping.
Mm.
And especially when kids with, they don't have like the luxury of having good internet, or they don't have the luxury of having a decent laptop that can run these Zoom
Yes.
classes or whatever. It's very hard. Like I know, so I do private tutoring, and I know I've noticed such a big drop in my students, their performance, definitely even the ones that really excelled before the lockdown, I've noticed their effort has dropped. It's not so much their intelligence dropped, it's just the effort has dropped because their motivation has dropped from not going to school. And a lot of these kids, you'd be surprised when you're a kid, right? You think, oh, I get time off school, I'm happy. Like everyone used to be so happy if they could get some time off school. But now that you've missed so much of school, you realize how much you take it for granted and how much you actually miss it. Like it didn't occur to me. I was like, oh, these kids get to go home for a while. They're lucky. But then you realize they're stuck at home. They're missing so much. This is actually they might not realize it, but it's going to affect them in the future because then they're held back in a way. And yeah, it's actually really bad. So like even I think Mr. Long was saying about the physical process of getting up, going to school, doing a certain routine. It's just that also motive. That's also a thing. Like even when I was working, before work from home became a thing, I'd wake up early in the morning, brush my teeth, get ready, all that stuff, have a coffee, get on the bus, then get on the train. I'll be reading a book, listening to music. That was like a whole therapeutic process. The whole commute helped me detach, helped me separate the personal from work life. And so when you're coming back from work, usually you use that time to just sort of like relax yourself and get ready for like just chilling at home. Basically, you don't want to be going straight from work straight to home, which is now what's happened at work from home. So when I went straight into work from home, I'm not gonna tell, I'll be honest with you, I hated it at first for the first month and a bit because it was such a weird experience. Because I don't have a separate office that I can just work in a separate room for an office. I have to sleep and work in the same room. So I'd wake up and I'd have to get straight ready for work, and there's no intermission like there would be in a movie. You don't get an intermission, and that bit is the bit that we take for granted now. Yeah, that I realize is a big thing for people, is that whole commuting or even just the process of your daily routine has been changed so drastically that you're not comfortable with it at all, and it's a big part of you missing basically. Yeah.
I think if you don't have that distinction, then you're never fully working and you're never fully engaged and you're never fully resting. So you stay in this in-between phase where you'd never really get a chance to uncover, and that's very draining on the system, right? Like it's shit, man. Bro, this whole dimension to the struggles. Not as well, like Long as well, he's just said his internet's been cut by his landscapers recently. So he's dealing with like some super slow, I think it's like 3 gig an hour in it or something like that. Crazy. Like, so on top of all of the stresses, that brings like quite a bit of frustration, man. Like not even being able to load the work you need to do sometimes is hassle. That adds hours and time. So bro, I appreciate what you're going through, man. And bro, my hat's off to you, because I know it's tough, and all this on top ain't
and then I realized like, oh yeah, it's gonna be tough for them, and it's not a situation like if like we didn't have, like I know we didn't have that situation, so we're lucky we didn't have any problems. But if you think back to World War II, and those kids, they were in a war, and they literally had to move place, go to a whole different side of where they used to. They probably shipped off to outside of London. All the kids in London had to be shipped out. And that's a big change for them, like, and they still somehow made it. So it's all, I'm not saying, oh, you just got to deal with it. I'm not saying, like, I don't want to be saying that to people, but I'm saying at the same time, this is also character building in a way that you might learn something that our generation might not learn. So the younger generation might learn something from this that we might not be able to learn. And this might be the general norm now. Like a lot of these tech companies are starting to do work from home as a normal thing. So if you're already used to it, that's already a big check for you. Whereas these older generations, like I know there's a lot of older generations that really struggle with using technology and really struggle with that, which is not their fault. It's just the generation they grew up in, right? That's what they had available. So, but if you're in the younger generation where you're surrounded by all this tech or surrounded by all this, you have to work at home or study at home, then it sort of builds you up as a future skill for what you want to do later on, or what you're going to do later on. Especially if a lot of this is going to be working from home. Like even what Ashton's saying, I work, sleep, eat, and watch TV all in my room. To be fair, I've been doing that for a while, in that my room has always been like the place I always eat in, I always sleep there, because it's been a box room. So it's not like I had the space to have a separate room or anything like that. So yeah, above everything, it's lack of routine.
I like that perspective in it, because the same situations, like what you said as well about hindsight and foresight, right? Our hindsight and our regret is that same situation looking backwards, but that same situation looking forwards is that foresight. And now, if you're able to embrace all these extra challenges, your capacity is significantly more expanded than ours. Like, because you've carried more weight, your strength is at a whole different
Mm,
level. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So, it's probably tough times, but I guess if whatever method you use to help, broaden that goal and really see the further landscape, I know it's easier said than done, but you know, you'll reach the same point at us, but at a whole different level of capabilities. I know that for sure. Um, yeah. What's Sarge saying though? He's talking about routine as well,
Yeah,
right? As a tool.
yeah. Just reading the chat now, seeing what Mr. Long saying. Seems like a lot more stress, mostly emphasized by the fact that everything takes longer than what we're used to. We find ourselves worrying for longer periods of time.
Mm,
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. Yeah. It's it's not an easy situation, and it's understandable if people have their anxiety level goes through the roof, or they're severely depressed, or that's the big thing that I keep coming back to, and it's the mental health that gets affected.
mm,
And it's something that, even though the Western world is more more in tune about mental health than I'd say on the East, and this is just from observation. I'm not saying this is definitive truth. You don't have to take me as fact, but even though the Western world is more like in tune with mental health, they're more understanding of mental health than the Eastern world is. Like, if I know, like, if your class is mental in the East, in some places in the East, that's it. Your life is over. You're stuck in a mental facility. They don't treat you well there,
mm,
to put it frankly. Whereas in the West, it's a bit more. They try and help you a bit more. I'm not saying they're perfect. They try and help you a bit more, and it still needs to step up. Like, our level of care for mental health needs to step up, and I believe like governments and institutions need to step up more in regards to that. I've had friends that when they're working at home, they're working at home, and the company they're working for aren't taking into account their mental health. So the employee might bring up something about, oh, they're struggling with this, or they're finding it hard to come to terms with working from home, and it's affecting. They're saying how much it's affecting them. The company says yes, okay, we'll do something about it, but nothing ever happens because they just have to say it as a placeholder. They don't actually do anything, and I think that's the real issue. Like, people like to talk, like to just say yes, they will do something about it, but never end up. So it's a bunch of empty promises, and that in itself can also affect mental health. Like, people are just really getting affected by it.
mm,
Um, it's a real damper working from home if your employer is not taking into account your health. It includes both your mental health and your physical health. If your employer does not take that into account, then it is bad for people, and it can lead to such like terrible situations where employees are forced to quit, or employees take on too much than they can handle, and it leads to like
mm,
sad situations where they end up taking their own life, or anything else like that. It's not a good situation.
mm,
Um, it, it's not. It's something that governments, institutions, employers have to take into account. I've been so when I got let go back in June at a company I really loved working at. It was a tech company. I loved working at it, and they unfortunately had to let us go along with 300 people. Fair enough. I came to terms with it. I was like, okay, it's not a great situation, but at the same time, I understand it. And I was looking for work for about a couple months, and I think it took about 4 months before I got another role. And in this role, it was I wanted to give it the benefit of the doubt, in that I was like, okay, let me just take it on, see how it goes. I knew in my back of my mind, I knew, okay, something wasn't upright with this role, because
mm,
it was a one man company basically, and I was told I'd be paid part time, work 20 hours a week, right? So at first I thought, okay, maybe I don't mind working a bit over 20 hours. Like, I don't mind putting the effort. I'm stuck at home. It's not like I've got much of a social life, so I'd rather put some more effort into my work. And so I was happy to do some extra work. But then it got to a point where it's 4 weeks in, and I'm still working 40 hours a week. Like, I was
mm,
working Monday to Friday, 9 till 5 every single day. And it was getting to a point where it's like, this employer was just piling on work for me, and it wasn't helping me. And I brought it up with him once or twice. And the second time I brought it up, it was actually a long worded kind of rant I was going on. And he didn't respond to me for 3 days, which, one, is very bad, because obviously you need to address the situation as it happens. And then after the 4 days, He lets me go. He says, I'm going to have to let you go due to shifting business priorities. I knew that was bullshit from the start. But a part of me also knew I was so glad, because when I got those 4 days off, I was regretting going back to work. So if you're in a situation where you're ever regretting going back to work, you shouldn't force yourself to be there. Now, if you feel like you have to grind because you need the money to support something else, fair enough. But don't let it get to a point where you have to break yourself as a person in order to do tasks for this employer, because it's definitely not worth it. If it's not making you happy, you can't put your full effort in. You can't do the work that they want you to do. And I was glad. Like, I only spent a month in that company, and I was so glad I left. Like, I was so happy. I mean, I'm still like looking for a job, and it's still hard out there. Like, looking for a job is not easy, especially in this current climate. It's not easy. But I was glad to not work there. I've been happier in the days afterwards than I was in the days when I was working there. So one key thing is definitely, like, you have to take care of yourself before you look after because a company either falls or rises. It's just a company. It's an inanimate object, right? The person running the company will probably move on to other things. Like, that's not your problem. That's not your priority. They've taken on that risk. Your priority is to make sure you look after yourself. That's the key thing. And I think that's lost on a lot of people. Not their fault, because at school you're taught to follow the rules. You're taught to like listen to someone with authority, which I understand in some situations, but other times when that authority is contradicting your own physical health or your own mental health, it's not worth it. You might as well just leave that company or leave that role and start something else or go on to something else, because at the end of the day, you could be busting your ass like 40 plus hours a week and you just never get anywhere. And that will damage your mental health more in the long run than anything else, for sure.
Yeah,
But
it's a tough one to navigate and tough one to get the right perspective, which I think also brings well into what Sarge was saying about his comment. You're saying here, Seb, the problem is that for you to get that point of looking forward, you need maturity, and that usually comes with age. And so even that is hard harder than it sounds. Remember what level of thought we were when we were 15, 16, and that is so true, man. And that's the thing. That's why I commend every single person who is involved in this. Long for putting the questions out. Sarge, Aswin, Panda, everyone who's joined on here at the moment, because this is the process that we have an ability. I'm not qualified to give advice, but what we're all doing here is sharing a perspective. And for me, the thing that unites all of us is this, I like to call it this rock of life. You know what I mean? And everyone stands at a slightly different angle to this same rock. And the thing is, the more we discuss and the more we open up this platform and the more we share opinions, the better this picture of this rock becomes.
Damn, that's actually so true, yeah.
And, together in what we're doing, again, our hindsight hopefully comes across as some foresight for you to absorb, like even hearing Panda about the way he navigates his decisions, about the way he realized about, not sacrificing his health and bringing an awareness to, his daily life and what, it meant for his long-term mental health. Like that, I'm gaining hugely in that authenticity and that responsibility he took, to make that decision. And I've got to question a lot of aspects of my own life now. And I did with a lot of jobs that, I've done as well, because, chasing money was a thing. But yeah, completely understand. It's easier said than done. But hopefully, sharing this perspective, we can all build a slightly better picture of what the fuck we're trying to manage. And I just want to share my little perspective as well on what you said about anxiety. I think for me, the fight was never going to be won, right? We think we should live a life without anxiety at all. But a lot of people who have told me, whether it be in various philosophies, in Buddhism or in psychology, is that there's a reason why it's there. Anxiety is a beautiful tool that we have to say, hey, there's uncertainty, Seb. So let's energize ourselves. Let's make sure we're alert to be aware that there's an aspect of uncertainty. And I think part of accepting that allows us to digest it. Still, it can be very uncomfortable because there's a lot of uncertainty out there. But when you're not fighting it to realize you don't need to have no uncertainty, you can kind of position it and cap it and say, okay, there's the uncertainty, and these are what I'm working on to help counteract that. That becomes, at least it was for me. Again, it might work for you, it might not. But that for me was a huge step into being able to cope with it. you know, and live with it. Because I think the mistake is we think we don't need any anxiety, but we realize that it's such a fundamental survival tool. Much like pain, you know, we're scared of pain, but we realize the right amount of pain is what protects us. It stops us from cutting through our hands. It tells us that that thing's too hot, is going to hurt us. So it's not about getting rid of these things, but how do we integrate them in the right way and realize how useful they are? And that is a very, very long process. And, you know, through dialogue is one of the most powerful ways we can come to a better picture of this, you know, this thing that we're looking at and experiencing. So yeah, I appreciate that, Sarge. It's a good thing to point out, you know, because we're talking a lot from our hindsight here.
Yeah, I'm reading the chat now as well. I'm just trying to catch up to see what it's saying. I just yeah, it is a really bad situation for these kids. And yeah, it's like, I think that's the one thing we neglected from the first lockdown. The initial problem in the first lockdown was we were worried mainly for the elderly, which of course we should be at the same time, because they're struggling from this lockdown. The only aspect they can is going out to the shops, or they go to these like social events for other elderly people during the day. They can't do that now. They're stuck at home. Their relatives might not be able to see them. It's a sad time for them. They can't work technology the same way we can, so they can't communicate with their family as well as we can. And I've learned as well, like I've realized, like, oh, certain people have missed their vaccinations because, one, they might be too old, they can't arrange transportation for themselves to get there, and they'd have no way of communicating with that originally. So there's different, like every group of people have their own problems. Every individual person has their own set of problems within that. So you can't it's sort of that. I've seen this post on Instagram where it was like, there's a guy in a he's got one leg and he's on crutches, and he's like, he looks at a guy who's running down the street and he goes, oh, I wish I was that guy. Then that guy is the guy that's running on the street. He's looking at the guy on the bicycle going, oh, I wish I had a bike. And then the guy on the bike sees the guy on a car, in a nice car, a decent, half decent old car, and he goes, oh, I wish I had a car. And the guy in the old car looks at a guy in a nice brand new car and he goes, oh, I wish I had a brand new car. Then the guy in the brand new car keeps going on, and it's like you said, it was about that perspective. Like you might be suffering, but there's someone else that's suffering just as more, if not more than you. But so you have to, at the same time, yes, you got your own suffering, but at the same time, you've got to be grateful for what you do have. So it's more like a count your blessings kind of thing, because you could be worse off. So at this time that we're all stuck at home, yes, it's bad for us as well. But then there's like Saj said, there's a generation of kids that they're in a sucky situation because they're not getting that learning that they should be getting at that age. Whereas we've already got that. So all we're worried about is trying to find another job, or we're trying to find another source of income, or trying to just find a way to socialize without breaking any rules. It's everyone's got that really bad situation that they're in, or they've got their own perspective on what their situation is. It's like you said about the rock of life, which I found really, like, that's a really good anecdote for that. Like, just everyone viewing it at a different angle gives you a different perspective, and you only by communicating that to others around you can you get the full picture of that rock. That's literally the best way. And I just saw, sorry, I'm just reading now, I just see Kizzo69, what add-on are you using? Oh, the filters are from Zoom, which Mr. Long said. Yeah, it's so if you on Zoom, if you go on video filters,
yeah, I can show it on here
the video.
actually. So you go to here we go, choose video filters. You get, oh, where is it? Here we go. So you should be able to see it on stream now. I've got a slight delay on mine. So you've got all the typical backgrounds, but then on the bottom right, you've got studio effects in beta mode. And that's where I've got my beard. I'm actually going to take it off because I almost cracked up laughing how stupid I look right now. I don't know how on earth.
To be fair, I didn't even notice we had the filter on until he pointed out, because I kind of forgot we had that. So we were doing that earlier at the beginning of stream, just playing around with Zoom. And then we were talking and we kind of forgot about what we had on ourselves. So sorry if that was a bit off-putting. Shall I just take off my one as well? Because I realised
I kind of like the beard, mate. It's kind of hiding how round my face is.
Oh wow! Oh, so the beard works for you. Why does it not work for me?
Because you've got a beard, mate. It's like you don't need to put a step further out the limelight, you know.
I know, but I just want to change the colour of my beard just to see what I look like. But it's fine. But yeah, Saj saying about the way you got best way to understand anxiety is to realize what you're actually in control of. Yeah, there's certain things you're in control and certain things you're not. And I think I don't know if this is true in every culture, but in our culture, Saj knows about this, but like your parents might say to you, whatever's going to happen will happen. I think there's a Latin saying, "Que sera, sera," whatever will be, will be. Um, it's like at some point you can't control every aspect of your life. There are certain things you can, and certain things are just beyond your control. Like your health, there's only so much you can control your health, but nothing. You can't stop you suddenly getting cancer because that's something that just happens, or you getting some disease. You can't control that. You can prevent it to an extent, but you cannot control that, and that's where we got to understand. That's where the pure anxiety, the stress level goes up because we're trying to control every little bit of our lives, and you got to realize you got to be a bit more carefree and a bit more like. I'm not saying you should live carefree. I'm not saying this is how you should live. I'm just saying if you feel like your anxiety levels are too high or too much for you, then maybe you have to look at a different way of living, or just maybe take a step back and evaluate what you're doing, and go, okay, what can I control and what can't I control? For instance, like you lose your job. Okay, what can I control? Well, I can't control myself from getting back into that company. I can control myself getting another job, or I can control myself doing something else. And just learning to work with what you've got and make lemonade out of lemons, basically.
Yeah,
That's what I think.
that's powerful, man. Yeah, I think, yeah. I mean, another saying that I've always been told, but suffer what there is to suffer, enjoy what there is to enjoy, in it.
Sorry, I was just seeing what Mr. Locke just said.
What is that?
You've adapted to the filters just like we're adapted to change.
True.
Hey, I'm not gonna lie. The filter has grown on us slowly. Like at first, I was like, "Oh, this feels a bit weird." Kind of
I
grown
might
on
get
us.
hair implants on my upper lip. I think this is working for me.
I might try and get a floating halo. I don't know if that's available. Let me see if I can buy that on Amazon.
Mate, it says your filters are rough, so yeah. I think you
I
may.
mean,
be
yeah, no, they're
suggesting
just
it.
like, yeah, it's angelic Black Panda, man. I don't know why, but
The Black Angel. Black Angel 18.
Black Angel 18. I just changed my whole like whole persona. Oh god.
Man, it's a good point to, I think, give you a shout out as well, man. For anyone who's on the stream, or typically most of my viewers tend to come on after the stream, make sure you check out Black Panda Man 18, who's joined me. He's in the title of this chat. He's been my inspiration to get in on stream alongside all the other mates who are on chat as well, who, Sarge Aswin, guys like Long as well, who've, been the support of the journey and been part of the journey, asking these awesome questions. So yeah, just really happy to be all part of this and to be growing the community together alongside Panda as well. So yeah, very close to affiliation, Mr. Panda. We'll get him
Yeah,
there.
I'm trying to get there. I think I'm on like 47 followers. I need to get to
Awesome.
50, and then also I need to average my viewers average three on every on every stream. Which this is the problem I had with Twitch. So we were discussing like right at the beginning about how streaming works, but like so Twitch, I've realized Twitch is very buggy with how they count their viewers. And you brought up a point, like I've learned a lot. Like I know you said I was an inspiration, but at the same time, I've learned so much from you about how to use Twitch. I thought like I was so confused as to why Twitch wasn't counting certain of my viewers, and it turns out, oh, if you mute the stream itself, then that they won't count that as streamers. So it does get. Oh, appreciate that, Mr. Long. Thanks for the follow.
Appreciate that, bro.
Yeah, so it's very buggy using Twitch, and I just realized like I was doing YouTube on the side as well, but the main thing was going to be Twitch. But I realized I'm going to be pushing more on YouTube side, because I realized that's a better way to evaluate my viewers, better way to get the analytics is better on YouTube than Twitch, in my opinion. This is obviously a personal preference, but I found that out. But yeah, I think I mean I do want to carry on Twitch. It's definitely a good platform. But I also want to be pushing YouTube a lot more. So for sure, I want to be trying to get more videos out there. I'm trying to put out more content. I just got Scuff controller, so I'm going to put that video out there. Done the unboxing for that. I want to push for more content for sure. But yeah, that's where I'm at basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we're both on this journey as well of creating different types of content. I feel this has so much value in it that, uploading it straight away onto YouTube has a lot of benefit, even for us to rewatch, for us as a reminder down the line, wherever we end up, where we came from. And, if just one thing resonates, one question, one comment, one thing that we said, like, you know, Mikey, one of my mentors, he did a podcast with me yesterday, I think, and that's it. You know, all this was worth it for our own gain, but even more so for that one other person that can gain from it. You know, and I think this, for me, I love gaming, man. There's an element of life that is worth
Yeah.
enjoying for it, but delving into this as well, I think gives that much more wholesome sort of feel behind creating content, behind delivering value to a community, you know, and
Yeah.
growing together. I think that's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah. And I agree with that. Like, you want to be, when you're gaming, there's like, and that post, I remember I remember you reacting to the post I put on Instagram about the story post about there's two modes to gamers. It's either no, you just give no fucks at all, or sorry, pardon my language, you don't care at all, or you go on full on rage mode when you're trying to be competitive as well. And I'll be honest, I've had that, and Seb knows about this. I get super raged out. I get super pissed off in games. I've slammed my table. When I was younger, I broke my TV on one game. Like, it's got to that level. Yeah, so like I threw my controller at the TV, it broke. Thankfully, it was like a small crappy TV. I got a different one after that. It wasn't a big issue, but at the same time, it can that gaming aspect, it can take, it's like another drug as well. It's addictive. You can take you to a whole different person. Like, you become this whole other animal, this whole other creature, and you got to be careful with that as well, because you see all these little kids that when they rage over a game, you see what they become, and you don't, that's your view of them, and that's very bad for them. In that's how do I say, it's not good for them in their future life, because then that's what they start to put out in their real world. So you take in from the gaming world, you take that percent and you put it out in the real world, which can be bad for you, because it can lead to, like, I'm not saying it leads to kids going crazy on the streets and stuff like that. I'm just saying, like, their temperament becomes more, they become more angry as they deal with real life situations, and it shows for sure. I think raging in game is, even though we take it for granted, we're like, oh yeah, it's just, you're just raging over a game. I realized it's actually like quite bad for you in terms of how you put that out there in the real world afterwards, because your anger levels can go through the roof there. In how you deal with people, it's a very bad situation to be in. But yeah, it's you've got to find that good level of where you want to game. You want to be good at it. That's fine. People practice the game. People practice the game and they get better at it and they do well. That's kudos to them. Some people just want to play a game and just like put out fun content or something to just keep it lighthearted. They don't want to get too invested in something. And I think it's finding that balance between the two is very good. And that's personally what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to find that balance between trying to be a good gamer, but at the same time, just put out some good content and creative content. Like, that's the difference between a creator and a gamer. A creator puts out content that they thought of original ideas based on something else, or they thought of some idea that they're going to do based off a game or based off a TV show, movie, whatever, whatnot, something in pop culture, and they're going to put it out there. And I think a lot of people say, I see these streamers that they play. So Warzone is a very competitive game, as you know. Everyone's been playing that like crazy since lockdown, and the level of competitiveness in that game has gone past anything I've seen in Call of Duty. Like, I've seen people play Call of Duty and they play the normal multiplayer that comes out, and how competitive they get. They try and go for nukes or flawless victories or whatever, stuff like that. And even the pro, you get the COD esports tournaments as well, which started with World of Warcraft and all those other PC games, but now COD esports is such a big thing. Warzone has expanded that market even more, because there's now a lot more players playing COD because of that, because the free to play aspect of it, and because it's COD. It's definitely made everyone step up their game, and I've noticed that. Like, it used to be back in the days, you just put up a YouTube video of you just playing the game, and you might be doing well in it. That's fine. Now it's like, oh, I see 100. I'm on YouTube, like half my days on YouTube, because that's how you learn as well. Like what's out there and what you want to do as YouTube for YouTube videos. And it's like, you see all these videos going, this is the best gun ever, and it's like, yeah, clickbait titles or whatever. But they're trying to put out content that grabs your attention, and I think that's the key thing to YouTube videos. This is obviously personal experience. If you disagree with me, I understand that. I'm not always right. But yeah, so that's what I've noticed. I've noticed that in YouTube videos, the key is to grab their attention in that one thumbnail or that one title, or even just, you know, when you hover over the video, you can see a little clip of it. That you want to try and engage people, because people nowadays have a slightly shorter attention span. Not everyone, but a lot of people have a shorter attention span than they did back before the internet was out, because now everyone just wants that information to come in quickly without having to think too much about it. So you don't want to be staring at a video for ages. You want to be just absorbing the main key points and just go off something else. That's why apps like Snapchat and Instagram blow up, because they don't keep you engaged for, they don't on, you're not on fixated on one thing for too long. You keep scrolling through, or you keep swiping through different things. So I think finding that keep balance in YouTube is also very good. I don't know, Seb, like I don't know if you agree with me or not, but
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, that completely resonates with my way of handling things. It's awareness and context, isn't it? It's awareness of first and foremost what we're doing, and the context of it. Like, this is the game, you know, this is entertainment. You know, this is what's useful for, this is what's not useful for. Not saying that we can or can't do anything, because then we start to build this rigidity. Whereas if we develop awareness, you know, like being able to identify it and then understand the context of it, then we have that ability to leverage it in the best way possible, in the most agile and flexible way possible, that meets this really uncertain time, you know, because we don't know what's going to be thrown at us. But if we take awareness and we take an understanding of context with our experiences, then we realize we're building we're building a very powerful toolkit. So I completely resonate with, you know, all those elements that you've highlighted, and the importance of not getting overly absorbed in one and then extrapolating it to all areas, you know. So 100% agree with you there. 100% agree. I just had a sneak peek, and I know Long's dropped some gold mines here. My screen's a bit small, mate. Are you able to read that a bit better?
Yeah, it says that's what I find to be most important about these conversations, figuring out what aspects connect to you, looking within yourself to improve yourself as a person. Yeah, that's true. That's why a lot of people, I think Twitch really blew up, because there's a lot of that authenticity, a lot of different points of view that people want to be looking for. And yeah, you can get that. And to be fair, there's still people using YouTube, and I think YouTube Live is going to be overtaking Twitch in a few, because like yes, Twitch is such a big live streaming platform, but now YouTube has perfected. I think they've not perfected. I'd say they've improved YouTube Live. YouTube Live back then wasn't. It was very buggy, and I think now Twitch has become slightly buggy. For anybody new to Twitch, it gets very buggy, and that's my personal opinion. Sorry, from what I've seen, and I think YouTube Live is a bit more stable. So I think you'll see a lot more people on YouTube Live. Even Facebook Gaming, I've seen quite a few people use that because Facebook's such a big platform. Facebook Gaming, you already tapped that market. Whereas Twitch, when I started on Twitch, I think most of the people I was telling Twitch about did not know what Twitch was, which is understandable, because it's not such a big thing. Unless you're a gamer, it's not a big thing to you, or even a musician. If you're not a musician or a gamer, I think that's the main target of Twitch, because that's what it originally was targeted at before. But I think YouTube Live will hit a lot more people for sure, because people will see a YouTube video more than they would see a Twitch video, for sure. I think that's definitely true. I think he's also said keeping the gaming emotions and the in real life emotions separate is important. But when you are talking about impressionable children, it is much harder for them, considering their young age and development. That is so true, mate. Because that is one thing as well. And I've put this on my stream. Is I've made it so that I say it's mature content. It's a warning that comes up. You can set it on your Twitch stream saying, it's a warning saying mature. If you're new to the channel, it tells you, warns you it's a mature content, just because the games I'm playing are 18 plus. Yes, even the kids, to be fair, kids are playing the 18 plus games, but at the same time, I'm also drinking on the stream. I might swear on the stream. I might do that. And I don't want to be telling kids that's what they want to do. That's what they should be doing. You don't intend them to learn it, but at the same time, that's what they are going to learn, because that's what they are looking for. They're looking for something to look up to. And you as a content creator, or you as a streamer, or you as even just an older human being to these kids, you have a responsibility to act a certain way around them, and you have to be thoughtful of what you do around them. So whether it's like, you see all these rage reaction videos on YouTube of gamers rage reaction, um, that comes from like them hearing other gamers on stream. When I like, I think I was listening to, sorry, this is again anecdotal. I was on playing on Modern Warfare. I was playing a multiplayer match, and I'm just listening on head. I know some don't always play with headphones, but I was just playing on headphones, and this guy was this. I could tell you can obviously you build up a certain understanding of how people are and people act. So I was just listening on the stream, listening, sorry, on the game and in the in-game lobby on my team. That one of my teammates, I think he was American Irish or he was Irish or something like that. I could tell from the accent, but he definitely wasn't black. He like had no black in him because then he kept spewing out the N-word. Now, this is obviously another controversial thing. Like people just they go, oh, can they say the N-word? Now, obviously they say it in music, and there's few rappers that aren't black that still say it. And there's a very fine line between saying it and not saying it. And me personally, I just would never say it. Even if it was music lyrics, I still wouldn't just say it out loud because it's affecting a certain group of people with that word, and that's a form of violence in a way. And if you yourself are saying that out loud, you're then making it saying it's okay for these young kids to then say it. So I heard this guy saying it, and he kept swearing and calling. He said, other than the N-word, he was also saying Paki and all that stuff, which is racial terms for Asians. And I didn't want to talk to him verbally, so I put on the chat and I said, "Look, man, don't say those words." I was trying to be nice about it. I was like, "Don't say those words. It's quite offensive." And he's just like, he read the chat and he just like, starts flipping out on me. And then another guy was also telling him, don't say that. Like, it's not right to say that. He's like, oh, why? I can say it's not a big deal. It's like, it's just a word, blah, blah, blah. And when I hear that, it's just a word. It's like, that's the only time you ever hear that is, and this again, this is going to come from my prejudice, but the only time you ever hear that is from a person with privilege. So white people will obviously say that. And now I'm not saying every white person says that. I'm saying that white people inherently have that privilege that that every other race does not in the Western world. Now, that's not true every other country. It's just in the Western world that's true. White people have a certain privilege. If you are a minority, even if you're black, Asian, brown, any whatever race you are, that's not white, that's not inherently white, you have some sort of disadvantage compared to those that are white, and that's shown time and time again. And you don't have to agree with me. Like, you could say, oh, it's not true, white people have it just as tough, but then again, that's another thing. It's about what Seb's saying. It's about perspective. Like, you have to look at it from their point of view. You can see that, oh, it's hard, so much more harder to be a minority in a white man's country than it is to be a white man in another country. Like, that's another perspective. But I've seen people in India and in Sri Lanka where I've visited, and if you're white, it's okay. There's nothing. You're not looked down on. You're not. I mean, yes, there are. Don't get me wrong. There's still types that don't like other races, but then that's because they're closed off from the world. But white people are not like that in that they're closed off from the world. London is one of the most diverse. London, New York, places like that. They're the most diverse countries, diverse cities and places in the world because they have so many different ethnicities and minorities in there, races, religions, creeds, whatever. They have so many, and you still see inherent racism within that. You see systematic racism, whether it's in institutions, in the government, in anything. You see it. It's ingrained in there, but the majority of the people are still blind to that, and it's clear to see it, especially in what when people hear the word white privilege, they think it's an insult, but it's not meant to be an insult. It's a form of saying, oh, look, you've got this power. How you use that power is up to you. So we can't tell white people to stop having white privilege. We've got to tell them that they've got to use it for the force of good, right? So they've got to use it for helping out minor, like whether it's speaking up, like getting their voice out there and saying things that need to be said so that other people can hear it. Because obviously a lot of racism comes from ignorance, in that you don't know anything. You just make up stereotypes or you make up things about other people, and you ingrain that in your younger generations, and they bring it up as if it was like instant thought to them, like instinct to them. And that's why, like when that guy was saying on online lobby, and he just kept he said the N-word, he was saying Packy, and he was saying all these other words, right? And it really hit me. Like, I was like, this isn't some kid. If I wouldn't say I'd understand it, but I could get it, because I think the kid just doesn't know what he's talking about. But this is you could tell from his voice that he was a grown man. He was at least 16 to 18 plus. Like, he wasn't some young kid. He was definitely old enough to understand what his words are saying. And I don't know, like, that, then that part of me was just like, okay, look, you need to just, like, you've told him, I've tried to tell him a number of times, and then it just got to a point where he just kept on talking and talking and saying this stuff. And at a point, you just got to remove yourself from that situation, because then you then become that same level of angry that he was, or same level of pissed off that he was, that you then start saying things back to him. You don't want to drag yourself down the mud like he did. Yeah, and what Mr. Long's saying about you only hear it online where people are anonymous, in a sense, I would agree to some extent. It's a lot more easier to say it online, because if you're online, you don't have to worry about backlash, in that you no one can find out who you actually are. But at the same time, I've seen the videos of people openly in public places, or in private meetings, whatever. They've said racist things, and they stand by what they say, racist or prejudicial stuff they say and do. I've seen a lot of it, and it's really, really bad. And I've actually witnessed, I haven't been, lucky for me, I haven't been the victim of racism. I'm well, not that I know of. I can't tell from systematic racism if I have been or not, but I have seen people being racist to other people, and it's very bad to see that. It's so sad to see that, because it's one thing to be rude to someone, it's another thing to demoralize a whole ethnicity because of that. It's like saying, I've met one black guy and go, oh, well, I think all black guys are like this. That's like, that is such a bad thing to think about, because you have to remember that everyone is different. And I think that's the point. Like, yes, you hear it online, but at the same time, I think it depends on where you are, and everyone's got a different view. Like, to be honest, if you grew up in a predominantly white area, very upper class area, you don't get to see what much of the racism, because you're cut off from that side of the world. Whereas if you grew up in, say, South London, Northeast London, whatever, you're with a lot of minorities, and you can see that there is a definite gap between the white people and every other race in that sense. Now, I'm not saying, again, like I said, and I want to put this out there to make sure that everyone understands, I'm not saying every white person's like this. I'm saying that it's ingrained in most white people, in that it's become natural to them. And again, that's not their fault. That's more the product of their upbringing, the product of their surroundings. And until we can, it takes, I'm not going to say we can instantly change like that. It will take time for people to change, and take time for generations to move on. And that is like the key thing we have to remember. It's going to be an uphill battle, but it's still going on. It's never going to, I'm not going to say racism is going to be gone sometime soon. It might take years, it might take decades, centuries. I mean, we've had racism for a while. Like, it's not something that's new. It's been going on for years, generations as well. But it does get better the more we talk about it, the more we point it out, the more we stop hiding away from it, or stop covering up the fact. It's got to be put out there so we know when it's happening. Just like with any sort of crime, I think it's literally a crime as well. So I think we should definitely highlight it when it's put out there. I wouldn't say it's common, but it's definitely noticeable here in the US. So that's coming to my point about when I said I've never been the victim of it, but I've definitely seen it. When I say seen it, I've seen it in person but that's here in the UK. In the US, I've seen a ton of videos. So you see all these videos of Karens and Kevins, right? I don't know, Seb, if you've seen them, like Karens going crazy, stuff like that. And it's just mainly white people that go off on other minorities, shouting out racial slurs or bigotry or anything of that kind, and they're just going off crazy. And I'm like, it's crazy to think these people have jobs or they have things. The way they talk, I could understand if they were angry, that's one thing, but it's another thing to be angry and then spew off nonsense, because then you're not thinking about what you're saying. yes, anger clouds your judgment to a certain extent, but to then say racist stuff and they don't think when they speak. And I always say this to anyone I talk to, I like, think before you speak, because if you're not thinking before you speak, I might as well just be talking to a robot. Because no, sorry, not a robot. I might as well be just talking to a child, because a child doesn't have less inhibitions than a grown adult does. That's why we teach them the value of like thinking before they speak. Teach them the value of like taking people's feelings into consideration and whatnot. Um,
I mean,
but
I completely agree with everything you said. The next kind of level of analysis I've been contemplating on is, how do we know we're moving towards a solution, right? Because in the same way how one group is suppressed, we can easily paint the same picture on another group, and understandably where the hate has come from. And I don't mean this anyway, because my belief is always developing a better understanding, and a better awareness, so as never to discount the reality of it. But the difference between we know whether we're taking a step forward or a step back is that level of ignorance. You know what I mean? Ignorance is the fuel of all of this evil. It's people unaware of their actions, unaware of the effects, the origins, and to counteract it is not, again, the worst thing you could do is shoot the pilot of the same plane. We're human, they're human fundamentally. Not saying that there's nothing wrong, but we're not going to do anyone any favors by shooting them. But we can really evoke true change if we can show courage, not driven by delusion, because you don't want someone who's courageous driving your car who's ignorant, right? Because they don't know what they're doing. You want someone who's courage and confident in driving your car because they've had clarity. And that is the biggest way to identify someone who's active and courageous in fighting these disparities, whether they're taking a step forward or a step back. Are they acting with confidence, and are they clear about the situation and clear about, the example that they're sharing? Because through example outspeaks any word, outspeaks any other thing. Through your own example, through the own way you relate, to the own way you respect other people, that is the greatest example, the greatest message you can share to anyone. And for me, the difference is it can be the same action in a very small window, but in the greater world of progress, the real indicator is how much ignorance we're adding to this fire.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so
100%.
like it's good to be aware of the dynamics of like privileges, but at the same time we've also got to be careful at the same time not to demonize in the same level of ignorance, to just say all white people or all people who had a privilege should not have that advantage, or should be always continuously aware, because then we close
Yeah,
ourselves to the progress and we'll miss that point of equilibrium
exactly.
as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's just the additional piece I've contemplated on, and heard a lot of people I admire speak about as well.
Yeah, so like I 100% agree with that, and I think when people hear that's the thing. So when people hear white privilege, they think it's something that's to be eradicated. And I was thinking, like, it's so ingrained into our society. It's much easier and it's actually better in the long run if we use that white privilege to the advantages of minorities. So like I said, like people who have the position of power should speak out more about these injustices, about these anything that happens that's that affects any ethnicity group, should speak out. And I think it's a matter of using that white privilege for good rather than ignoring it. Like, it's one thing to go, like, you'll hear people go, oh well, I'm not racist. I was like, okay, that's fine, but that doesn't help the situation. In fact, you don't add anything to the situation. If you're not racist, then then it should be you using your privilege, your whatever power you've got, to help those that are being prejudiced against, or being held down against by other powerful groups. And yeah, it's like racism isn't something that clouds your thoughts, but rather living. Oh, sorry. Well, with all this said, I sincerely believe that with my generation younger are making steps in the right direction. That is true. I mean, with every generation that comes through, it will get less and less racist, but that doesn't mean it's going to get eradicated. And I'm not trying to dampen the mood by saying, no, look, racism never going away. It can go away at some point, but it's at some point there is a point where unless we're all the same race, same color, same creed, it's very hard because people are born up with certain mindsets that they get from the older generation. So like your generation, your parents won't be racist, but your great aunts, great grandparents might have been racist. I'm not saying they are. I'm just saying that it's because of the generation they're in that they've grown up with that mindset. And yes, there'll be your generation, the generation below you will also be a bit less racist, but that doesn't mean it's going to go away. And I think if we can work with each other, then it will become a thing where it's just racism will be such a small insignificant thing. It will basically be negligible. And it's good. I think we are getting in the right. I mean, you talk about what 50 years ago was only segregation, right? It was only 50 years ago, and that's if you think about it, that's your parents' age, Miss Long. I think probably around your parents' age. It's so recent that you could think, oh, I could have been in that generation as well. So we got to remember at the same time we've got to improve ourselves. We also got to remember our past because we can only learn from our past selves. So that's another thing. You got to learn from your past selves. You can't hope to move forward unless you look back and see what mistakes have been made, because otherwise you just repeat history. You just keep making the same mistakes then as everyone.
I think, I completely agree. I personally, though, I don't know. For me, I wouldn't name it a white privilege. I like to navigate it as just privileges, identifying privileges, because it's all relative. Like we're
Yeah,
privileged against, say, a third world country where we're having an iPhone that's essentially being mined with, we're having components mined by kids, right, who earn
yeah,
like barely a dollar a day. Like, so it's just about taking that responsibility because, again, we're not going to make change by extracting it and pushing it to outside. We got to realize that we're all human and we got to take that responsibility and our little role that surmounts to a big effect of, we've got to be aware of biases, we've got to be aware of privileges, and we've got to be aware of how to distribute the resources, and we've got to be aware of who is part of this community. And again, it doesn't need to be a delusion, right? Because we're not saying we need to create one race. Would be stupid. Yeah, it would be stupid to pretend this wasn't a green bottle. We can see it's a green bottle,
exactly.
but we get to a point where we don't have enough ignorance to realize that this is less superior than a cup, because we need both in order to serve their purpose to help us to drink.
Damn, that's so true.
And I think that's, again, my distinction. While I personally make the choice not to make it a white or black privilege, I go into any room, any discussion. I appreciate completely, the way they've framed it because it's their experience. But for me and the way I relate to things, just my two senses, I like to focus on any sort of privilege, any sort of ignorance. And I can, and I relate to that because I can see people suffer on both ends with maybe an identity. They become defensive, they become offensive, and by taking it away from, by taking it to a mutual domain, both sides are human and both sides are trying to navigate this ignorance, then it opens up a much more progressive discussion rather than just a defensive battle. That's just my 2 cents. So personally, I navigate it without that distinction. Yeah.
Miss Long also asks, do you guys think that the isolation has fueled people's self-centered mindsets? I think that's actually true. That's interesting. I don't know if it's fueled. Everyone's affected differently by the isolation. I don't think it's. Me personally, I think it's made people think about other people more. There will always be people that are self-centered. There are some people have different characteristics, and you can't help that in every situation. There will always be people slightly more self-centered or less self-centered, more forgiving, less forgiving. But like you can get like the people that are self-centered, like I've noticed, like okay, with this whole coronavirus thing, Mr. Long, I know you're in the States, right? And I've seen a lot of videos of people that go into shops specifically without, they might have a mask in their hand. And this is just videos. And so another thing is also social media. What I see on social media is one thing. You might see a different aspect. But I've seen a lot of people that they go into shops or they go to stores and whatnot, and they have a medical exempt letter saying they're medically exempt from wearing a mask, or they carry this. I don't know what it is, but it's like this, apparently this law that they have that says they can't be discriminated in a store, and they equate that to wearing a mask. Now, me personally, I have one mindset thinking that you should just wear a mask in store. I have a blocked nose, so I can't actually breathe out my nose properly. I can only breathe through my mouth. So if anything, a mask should make that a bit harder for me. But it's not too bad. Apart from a bit of heat around my face, it's not hard to wear a mask for a little, like an hour, 2 hours, whatnot. You're not wearing it for hours on end like these doctors are having to wear it for. So I think when you go in, if a store asks you to wear a mask, you should respect that, because one, it's their policy. If they told you not to come in naked, you would just follow that, of course. If they told something ridiculous like you had to remove a religious piece of clothing, then that's where it borderlines obviously into discrimination. But wearing a mask has nothing to do with race, nothing to do with color, religion, any of that stuff. It's only to protect you and everyone around you. Now, you don't necessarily have to agree with that, but it also doesn't hurt you wearing that. And then these people take it to another level, and I see it, they come in with a medical exempt letter, they come in with whatever reason, they start creating a fuss. And some of these, they come with their phone ready to video the whole thing, and I'm like, that's gaslighting right there. You just specifically going in to start that fire unnecessarily, because it doesn't help your situation. It doesn't help anyone's situation, because the government's not going to change that law just because you created a fuss over you not being able to wear a mask. And they go, it's their right to shop at the store. And it's actually not a right to shop at a store. It's your right to not get discriminated against. And the two are very conflicted in that people conflict the two together in that they say, oh, well, if I'm not able to shop, therefore I must be discriminated. But at the same time, every store, every shop, every service has a right to refuse service to you. Now, if you feel like you've been discriminated, that's when you take it up with the courts. You don't just make a fuss of it in store, because it doesn't solve the situation, because they're not going to suddenly then let you continue to shop without a mask. And then people bring up, like I see employees bring up points about, look, if you can't wear a mask in store, that's fine. You can shop online. Now, these people clearly they're not poor. They can afford to go to the store and buy this stuff, so they can just clearly shop online, get curbside delivery. It's pretty convenient. That's what I use. My parents use that. We don't want to go into the store because it's too much of a risk. We prefer, if we can get delivery, we might as well go for it. It's a convenience, and I think again, like Seb said, we've got to understand different people's perspective, but at the same time, I can't bring myself to understand why someone would go into a store to make that fuss and just not evaluate their options first. It strikes me as something that's very odd, and I think that I don't know, and I'm not saying this doesn't happen in the UK, but I've seen it happen a lot in the US, and I don't know what it is about the US that brings this type of mentality, but I see it so much, and it's getting out of control. And I think it will, like, anything that usually happens in the US tends to affect the UK as well, and vice versa. Anything, not necessarily vice versa, but most times anything that happens in the US affects the UK. And that's actually true, including weather. So if you guys in the US have a massive storm on the East Coast, we will definitely feel a strong winds on our end. We don't get heavy storms like you guys do, but we definitely feel it. But anytime you guys, I don't mean to say you guys like it's a general thing. I'm just saying in the US, anytime that you see this kind of stuff, it infuriates me, because you're such a developed country. You're not a primitive country. You're not primitive people, but yet this mentality seems to seep through that you got to act and behave that kind of way, that you only see crazy lunatics with I don't know how to explain it, but you don't see that in a civilized world. It's ridiculous, like how much I see that. And don't get me wrong, it does happen in the UK. You can see Karens in the UK as well. It does happen. It's just I don't know if it's not less videoed or it's just not as often, but it does happen in the UK as well, and it does happen in other countries, but predominantly in the US is such a big thing. And I don't. I would say it's a self-centered thing. Even being racist is also a self-centered thing because you're thinking only about yourself and you're not taking taking consideration the other race or the other people that you're talking to or hurting or physically attacking, whatever it may be. And the same thing goes with masks. The moment you stop wearing one, and I see it on the streets here, like if I'm going out for a walk on the streets, I don't need to. Yes, technically, I would like to wear a mask, but at the same time, if I'm going for a walk for exercise, it's very hard to exercise and walk to go breathe as well at the same time for me. So all I do is I just keep I keep my distance. I stay 6 feet apart from people. I will go onto the actual road if I have to. Like I don't mind. Like I'd rather do that than put someone else in danger or even myself because I have at-risk people at home. But when I see people in store, they don't wear their mask properly. They don't cover their nose, even though it's plastered everywhere on the walls. And it's common sense. Like you don't just wear a mask over your mouth. You breathe out of your nose like most other people do. So you do need to cover your nose. And I see some people, they come really close. They don't observe the social distancing. And it's like, I understand it's hard to get used to it. But at the same time, we've been in this for like a year now. And it should be something where you should at least have some consideration. But it sometimes slips people's mind. And I think that part is the self-centered part. Because then they're not thinking of others. And that's the only reason why this virus has only spread so badly is because we were so self-centered in that. And we as well, personally, we've been out and about. We didn't take it as such a big deal, and we didn't take into consideration other people's feelings. The moment in the UK, after the first lockdown, the government started to slightly ease the lockdown. They didn't completely eradicate, they just slightly eased it. People headed to the beach. They swarmed beaches, parks, any public place they could. And it's baffling. Like, do people not think when they go out and stuff, the virus can spread? Like, and you don't have to be a scientist. You don't have to be even just a person of science. You just have to have someone with a basic level of education plus some common sense to think, look, same way a cold spreads around. Cold can spread around. If you had a cold, you'd stay at home. You wouldn't go out partying. Why would you go out when there's a virus on the loose? It's that kind of understanding. That's the self-centered part that I think people have. But I don't think that's come from isolation. And I think that people will be self-centered if they are. You can't teach that out of them, because if they were raised up like that, it is a very hard thing. It's like ingrained in their DNA in a way. But yeah, that's to answer your question about, do you think the isolation has fueled self-centered mindset? I don't think it's fueled it. I think it's just made it more obvious now than it did before. Sort of like revealing what's behind the curtain kind of thing. But yeah, Seb, what do you think, Seb?
100% agree, man. This is one of the beautiful gifts of life. It's a tough pill to swallow, but it's like you said, it's only elevated the awareness of it. And life has this way of working. We know to some elements it's fair, because if we light a piece of wood, we're always going to get fire and we're always going to get ash. And so if the same lessons and the same mistakes weren't earned, the same lessons will continuously get delivered at a continuously more prominent, more painful a messenger in a more painful way until we've learned it and until we've changed. I think, like you said, it's surfaced this element of selfishness, but every time we get hit again with this reach and jump for the selfish tendency, we get a quick reminder of our interdependence, and the element of it is soothing, element of this consumerism is a soothing, it's an uncertainty. So we are known to soothe it with consumerism. We're known to soothe it with indulgence. But part of it as well is this reminder again, even at that point, who is it that stocks the shelves, of the toilet paper you need? Who is it that manufactures the toilet paper, that grows the trees for that toilet paper? We're so interdependent. So even at a personal and a selfish level, we realize that we can't disconnect from the other. And I think this is this really big reminder that we need to work together without the sacrifice or compromise of the other, because any element that is missing will completely break the chain. Even those who build on an egoistic sort of way, they realize they still depend on the opinion of the other to find that significance. And I think this is the realization that is starting to surface now. And in not only a sort of materialistic way, but also in the infrastructure and also the commercialization of these medical services, and the distribution of all of these things. This is the lesson. We're gonna continue to find some sort of stabilization, but if we reach for the same mistake again, we're gonna be hit, and the lesson's just gonna get harder until we've learnt it. But there's no other way, man. There's no other way to learn it, and this is what we've manifested. So
So true. So true.
know.
Yeah, like everyone's got a level of self-centeredness. Like, and personally, I'm not saying I'm selfless. It's not that there's no such thing as selflessness. It's very rare. Everyone does something for an agenda, whether it's personal or professional. There is an agenda, and that can be a certain level of selflessness or self-centeredness that you would then see in that. So a doctor healing someone, yes, it's a nice thing for that person. You might think it's selfless, but at the same time, the doctor's paid that to do that. He would do it for free, but he can't keep doing it for free. So he wouldn't do this constantly. So he wouldn't save every single soul that comes through. So everyone has a self, and I'm not saying that all of this is not like again, it sounds like I'm being such a downer by saying, but I'm not saying like all of humanity is selfish and everything like that. I'm saying that our human instinct is to protect ourselves. If you are in a crowd with a mother, a child, an old lady, and a grown man as well, and let's just say a bus is coming at you and it's coming at full speed, human natural instinct is to move out the way yourself first. Now, some people might have an instinct. They might be able to think a split second more and go, let's move out the mother and the elderly person who can't move as quickly, move them out of the way. That's a selfless thing. But at the same time, it takes training, it takes thinking to do that. It's not necessarily every human's going to do that. So everyone's got a bit of self-centeredness, but the level of it varies depending on people. And we only learn that from our experience. Like Seb said, you only learn from the actual reality, whatever's manifested. You only learn from that, how self-centered you are, how much you learn your character as you grow up. So it's a learning curve for sure.
Yeah, I think there's and
yeah, I was
also
just
I
reading.
think a big Eastern philosophy. He says there's always another way to link the chain, and I think that's so right, man. There's an infinite number of ways to link the chain, so therefore we need to find the one that doesn't compromise, the self or the other, because we realize they're in and amongst the same things, because the self can't exist without the other, and the other can't exist without the self, right? And I know this is a very spiritual dynamic, but one way that was really clearly put across to me was, say, if I was to explain to a complete alien who knew nothing, absolutely nothing, and I'd say, I've got a mate called Panda, and you go, okay, who's Panda? And I'll go, Panda's a human. What's a human? Human is someone who resides on the earth. What's the earth? We realize that for one thing to exist, everything else has to as well, and therefore they're interrelated. So I was in a conference, and what really stood out for me was a talk by one of the VPs or C-level C-suite guys from Dole Fruits, and they're about building sustainable businesses. And I think he said, I really wish I had my notes with me now, but basically he's saying, we sacrifice, either the environment, profitability, or people, in all our businesses. But we're really at a point now where we can link things in a way, and we can elevate our understanding in a way that we can really keep all three in mind and integrate them in business models that don't need to sacrifice them. And I think this is, again, one of those lessons that we're coming to awareness. And there's so many great small businesses now, big businesses now, that are making the change to really show there doesn't need to be that compromise. It's just, again, that process that we're going through, because this is the medicine, man. Medicine tastes shit, but frankly, it's that process of tasting shit, but what we need in order to recover,
Yeah,
and this is what we're going through. So
yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. Just I'm reading Mr. Long's point about problem with our past president, who we all know is Donald Trump, not acknowledging the seriousness of the situation, which enabled people to have an excuse. I don't want to push politics onto you. You know what? It's You're not so much pushing politics as the UK follows US politics quite a lot more ever since Obama and Trump. Ever since that era, I think the UK has been closely followed because we are connected in some way. Whatever happens in the US does affect the UK to some extent as well. But I've seen. I mean, you might support whoever on the chat. You might support Trump. You might not. That's personal opinion. And I'm not going to say anything about it. If you are but support Trump, that's up to you. But I am going to say what I've seen from that man is it's baffling to see how he managed to reach to the level of presidency. It makes me believe that anyone can actually go for that job, quite literally. It also it pains me to see how such a highly esteemed position is being wasted on this man. How he's just wasting away a lot of the stuff that he could have been doing. I personally think he's divided the nation a lot more than any other president has. From what I've seen on the news, on social media, it's getting worse with him. And I got to say, I was very relieved when I saw the results that he's out of office. But again, if you have your reason for voting for him, or if you have your reason for supporting for him, that's fine. Everyone's got an opinion, and at the end of the day, that's what it's about. You can't just dismiss someone's opinion because you disagree with it or you don't. It's not your opinion. It's literally an opinion. An opinion is something it's the opposite of a fact. It's not backed up by any evidence. It's not backed up by any sort of hard facts. It's just what you think and what you say. But at the same time, we have to take into account other people's perspective. And yeah, I would say that the previous president's negligence or complete denial of the virus is what made it such a big problem for you guys in the US. Same with, I believe, I wouldn't say our prime minister denied it, but our prime minister has been very, very, and I don't really like our prime minister at all one bit. I think he's basically the blonde hair equivalent of Donald Trump. And I think what he's done is he's made, with him and his entire cabinet, they've made poor decisions and gone back and forth, and they've confused the public about what needs to be done, whether it's lifting the lockdown or decreasing the rule or easing up whatever they've done. They've always mixed it up and here and there, and they've made promises that haven't kept, and it's getting frustrating. And this is what then affects people, and people then react outwards and they stop following the rules because of it. And it's going to become a problem if this keeps on going, because then it means once we need to go into a proper lockdown, or once again if we need to go into another lockdown, nobody's going to follow it because they're not going to be happy with the way the administration or the government's been handling the situation. In the UK now, the education minister hasn't cut university fees. So right now, the average university fee, if you're paying for a degree, it's £9,000 a year. That's not including just the loan to then cover your living expense and food and drink and whatnot. But they haven't even cut that for this year's pupils, even though we started the year in a lockdown as well. And I think that decisions like that have affected people's mindset and thinking, oh, this is not going to work out, and they're going to retaliate basically against the government. It's really bad, and I think we don't have it to the extent yet as what you guys had with your state capital being raided by pro-Trump protesters. But it will get to that point sooner or later if this keeps on going, I think. I know, didn't want to push politics on anyone, but just to bring up the fact about the past president, what Mr. Long said. BSF, sorry.
No, just resonating.
Any thoughts on?
No,
you
just
have any thoughts?
completely resonate with what you guys are saying. And to be fair, talking about tuition fees, bro, I mean, so it's a lot worse in the US, bro. We're talking like 50K a year, something like that. It's shocking.
Yeah.
I
know. I remember I wanted to try and go to university in the US, and it was like $54,000 for 3 years.
Madness. Absolute madness.
Which would have worked, which would have been about the same in the UK. But then you got to think about living expenses, like moving there, relocating, and that's not like that's not easy for a lot of people. And that's just the lower end. I wasn't even applying to some fancy university. It was literally just 54,000.
That's not bad. I thought. Are you sure?
That's for paying just for that. So that again is just a tuition fee kind of. That's the base. That's the minimum cost it would be.
Okay.
So for us, like we would be paying minimum 27,000 if we were paying for a normal degree, £27,000, which works out that technically works just under 50,000 technically. So it's definitely a lot more there. So if you go to a high-end university, if you went to UCL, it's the same as if you went to a really low-end uni. Yeah. Whereas in the US, if you go to a really high-end uni, it's more than 100% more than $54,000, and it's probably gone up. I don't actually know. This was back when I was applying. This is however long ago it was. 4 years, 5. God damn, I'm really old. 6 years old. Six years ago. So 6 years ago, it was like that bad. And it's gonna go up and up because you know what? At the end of the day, now university has turned into a business. They just want to make money, and that unfortunately is the sad fact of it. It's never going to be like Scotland have free education. They have free if you're a Scottish student and you go to a Scottish uni, you got free university. Same with, I think it's in Wales as well. It's kind of the same. I'm not too sure about that, but I know in Scotland it's free. It used to be free for us about 15 years ago. It used to be free education for us. Upper higher education, and then it turned into 1,000. Then it got up to 3,000. Now it's 9,000. Now it's close to 10,000 a year. And wait, I have many friends that are practically getting scammed with how much they're paying universities with such mediocre online. Yeah, and that comes full circle to the concept of people not experiencing the social aspects of uni. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like so we in the UK are pretty. I would say it's a better situation than that. In the US, you have to pay, like, unless you've got some sort of scholarship or funding, you're having to pay that up front and you're having to pay out of pocket and you take out a separate loan just to pay for it. Whereas us, we have something called student loan where it takes every time we basically get it covered by a student loan by the government. And then out of our paycheck, when we start working, a portion of it goes out from on top of our tax to pay off that student loan. Most people will never end up paying that student loan because it takes 30 plus years to pay. And obviously that interest keeps adding on and on. But it gets, like I know in the US it's different. You have to usually pay it out up front or pay at least a substantial proportion of it. It's not easy for everyone to get into university there. And now that it's shifted to online education, I've heard students that they've just been stuck in the uni halls there. During the Christmas break, they didn't get any any help from their tutors who were saying they were out of office. They couldn't help them. They were getting no support from the university. The rules of the university was still trying to get them to put out the same work, but while at home with no support, no in-class lesson. It's ridiculous, like how bad it gets. And people thought, okay, next year they'll make that year a write-off, so make it year free for whoever's in university at the moment. It didn't happen at all. They kept it the same price, and people are absolutely furious about it. And they call for the education secretary to resign his job, but knowing this, it's never going to come to that because, well, that's the sad fact again. It's very hard to get people in power to sort of admit their wrongdoings and sort of resign their power. Most times, I'd say it's very hard to do that, from what I've seen. But yeah, it's a very bad situation for the university students, I think, because I mean it's bad enough they have to pay 9,000 a year. It's worse that they're paying 9,000 a year for basically what is online lessons, which you can get for free in most places. You can get it at much cheaper rate than that, and it's actually so bad how they're treating this at university. Yeah. But yeah, sorry, what Mr. Long's saying.
Yeah, so you're saying I was surprised as well to hear Seb's reaction to me saying my winter break that has just ended was from December 12th to January 25th.
Wow, that is actually quite a long break.
That's a very long break, yeah, man. So you question what you pay for, isn't it? I think that's partly the beauty of the UK. you know, because it's all standardized, at least for the UK students. You know, it's nine grand, nine grand and a quarter, no matter where you go, whether you go Oxford, Cambridge, or you go to like City where I went. Um, and you know, I think I was talking to they're much more well educated than me, my neighbors, and they were saying the reason why university was such a highly commended place in the past was because they didn't have access. So that's where the books were, that's where the library were, and that's where the prominent research was. So therefore you pay to fund all of that, to maintain all of that, and in part to have access to that and grow yourself through it. But now there's a dynamic where you have the internet, and you know, a 5-year-old could Google a website, Wikipedia page, and he's talking the same level of accuracy and the same depth. He's reading a page as a professor, you know what I mean? So it questions now, this is a point of where we've really got to question the value, and we've really got to see, okay, now's the real time for disruption. And you know, it's opportunity again. Like, it's very tough though, but I know, you know, a plug to my mate Mr. Christian, I hope you're backing me and watching this, and don't say I don't look after you here. But you know, he's started the education entrepreneurship initiative, which is basically an online master's degree, so degree and masters, in partnership with the University of Chichester. So it's a full UK education that he's taken abroad for a much more affordable price, because you know, this is kind of saying, you know, education needs to be disrupted. It needs to be of the same quality and at something much more affordable that is equal and not perverting that exchange of value. So, you know, I'm really excited for this movement. I'm really excited for this awareness and this frustration, because hopefully, you know, things are going to start to manifest into action. And I think, you know, we're all having the same discussions, and we're going to be sick enough to hopefully start making some change. So, yeah, completely resonate with everything you said, Panda, and completely resonate with your frustrations as well, Long Man. And obviously the observations in the US is the same for many countries, and ourselves.
Yeah. And I think the idea now of having a standard education should just be I don't say it should be abolished, but I think it shouldn't be the norm. It should be something that you can do as an option. And I think people are thought they are limited in the option, thinking they have to go to school, have to get a degree, and then have to get a job from there. There are now like billion different paths you could go down. You could go so many different routes. There's so many opportunities out there, in what you decide to do. And I think, because I do private tutoring, so I've got a dozen kids that I teach, and when any of them are on GCSE or A level, so for you guys, that's from the age of 15 to 18. These kids, I tell them, look, so a lot of these kids I teach are Asian. So the Asian mentality is you got to go to university, get a job, get married, that kind of mentality. And Seb, I don't know if you can back me up on that, but that's the mentality we're raised in that mentality. And I went to university. I'll say honestly, I was actually forced into going to, not forced, but sort of like I was sort of pushed to go to university, and I don't regret going to university. University was such a good experience for me. University is such a good experience, and the people you meet and how you enjoy your life. That's a good thing. But at the same time, if you something else you have in mind, then university isn't. You don't have to necessarily go to university and then do your own thing. I would say push for your own thing and do that, because you can make friends at any time in your life, and you can meet anybody at any stage in your life. But what you can't do is look back and say, I wished I did this, I wish I did that, because then that's just regret, and you don't want to live a life of regret. If the reason why I did the YouTube thing 8 years ago, I was starting to do that, and I wasn't planning to go to university, and then I ended up going to university, being pressure from my family, going to university. So I stopped the whole YouTube thing. But looking back, I'm like, okay, well, I met these people, and I've met a lot of people, and I've learned a lot more things than I probably might not have learned if I was doing YouTube straight and carried that on. But at the same time, I also look, okay, well, I wish I did YouTube and carried that on. There's sort of that, you got to find that balance. That you've got taken a path, whatever path you take on it, you just got to pray that it's the right path for you. And I tell my students this, and I go, because obviously the parents that send these kids to me, they obviously, them thinking is they want to get them to university, they want to get them into good school, whatever their mentality is. And I tell them, okay, that's fine. Don't get me wrong, I'll still teach them, and I'll teach them to that level. But at the same time, if the child to me looks like they want to do something else, or they have an interest in something else, I will 100% tell them to pursue that. And I will tell them, despite what your parents may say, you should do what you want to do, because in the end, you got to live your life. You're not living your life for your parents. You're living your life for you live, because they're only going to live to a certain age. Then it's your life from then. Like, you're going to be on your own from then on. You got to make something of yourself. You got to do something that you enjoy, because then when you get to their age, you're going to regret it. They had to. You're like, oh, I understand the struggle my parents went through, because they came to a new country, they had to make a living, and they had to support a family. I understand that struggle 100%, but at the same time, that doesn't mean then you have to follow that same route. What you have to do is then do something you enjoy, so that what they did was worthwhile the sacrifice that they had. And I think if you're going to university, fair enough, go to university. That's up to you. And I think people should understand that they have options there. There's other options. They can go into the creative side, and I think the creative side is very looked down upon I'll say in the South Asian community, in that if you're not holding a job, or you're not holding down a good salary of some kind, then it's kind of like, oh, well, what are you doing with your life? Well, I'm doing something else that I want to do, and it might mean I might not make some money for a while, but at the same time, I enjoy doing it, and I'm going to make something out of it. And I think that's definitely a big thing that's like looked down upon in the South Asian community. That's just a personal note. But yeah, university is a great thing, and I think higher education should have been, like, it used to be free, not like 20 years ago, and I think that's where it should go back to. But I don't see that happening anytime soon, just because of the way the economy is going and the way the government works. Highly doubt it's going to be like that.
Yeah.
That's just a personal opinion.
Yeah, I think it's down to us to really continue to word it, and then, not to extract it, but then take that responsibility where we can to then make change. And it's not, for me, I was really against the system, because it was in that process that I found out I was dyslexic. So I was like, oh, okay, all of a sudden I found out the way that they're teaching me and the way that they're assessing me doesn't fully allow me to, first and foremost, grasp it in the easiest way possible for myself, but then also misrepresent my understanding because of the assessment style. So I was like, what on earth is this for, and why on earth am I paying so much for it? But the thing is, there's a huge value. That certificate is not asking you to become an expert engineer at the end of 3 years. It's to say you've been exposed to all the areas, but first and foremost is that you've been able to go through that process, and I think that says a lot about it. Whether it's worth 50,000, 60,000 in debt, like, once you come out, that's the big question mark. But that's why I'm very excited about these people who says, yeah, you know what, maybe it's worth 5,000, and let's put that out there, so
yeah. I mean, yeah, so I agree to some extent. For certain, like, because it used to be you go into, if you, like, a while back, it used to be you become a doctor, lawyer, or architect. That's what the main reason for going to university was to get those high level degrees that you had to study years and years for. Doctors, you have to train for years. Understandable. Engineers and anything related to that you had to train for. I understand that. But something like where you're doing an art degree, or you're doing even my degree, like, I realize how useless it actually is in the real world, because I got a degree in computer science, and I've been doing computer science for a while, so I've been programming for a while.
Same as Long, man. Long's also doing computer science.
Oh, is he? That's sweet.
Yeah.
Sweet, man. Oh, so we got mutual. So I've been doing computer science, so that I wanted to go into programming, and that's what my initial plan was to do. So I got the degree, and I come out of university, graduated, and 7 months I spent looking for a job. 7 months I spent looking for a job in computer science. And while I was doing that, I was temping at an estate agent, so a real estate place. Because I was very good at IT as well. I was very good at, like, managing that side, because I've had work experience in that. I did IT and a bit of designed their website for this company, this small little shop basically. And while I was working there, I was looking for a job. So it took me 7 months to find a job. That was just a temp job from a family friend. Come to December, so when I hit the 7 month mark, I get a job, and it turns out it's a job as a management trainee, sales management trainee at Enterprise Rent-A-Car. So I was working at Enterprise Rent-A-Car doing something that was nothing to do with my degree. My degree had played no part did not help in any way. I was like, okay, fine, I'm gonna pay my dues. I'm gonna just work here for the time being. Gotta earn some money anyway. I was I was okay to work there. They were working me to the bone. If anyone's worked at Enterprise, I don't know if you got anyone here has worked at Enterprise. If you ever worked at Enterprise, it is one of the worst places to work at in terms of just emotional endurance, because they work you like, I thought I was worked to bone like in other companies. This worked me to bone because you're working from 7 a.m. to like 7 p.m., maybe even later than that. You're either driving all day, you're on your feet all day, you're cleaning cars in a suit, you're tailing, you commit, you when you put these customers that you get as well. Now this is from personal experience at my branch. The customers you get, they are one very rude to you straight away. The things that you can't control. If a car breaks down, you didn't make the car. You're simply supplying the car to them to use. If a car breaks down, that's unfortunate. You endeavor to get them a new car, but it's the level of frustration you go through in a job. That took a toll on me. And I was there for about 9 months, longer than I wanted to be there. And it got to a point where I needed to find a job. Then I found a job finally within IT still. So still no programming, still no software engineering, no computer science involved whatsoever. Well, very little involved. I was working in this IoT company, American IoT company. I loved it so much then. Even though it wasn't to do my job, it's something I could see myself doing, and I was really getting into it. And I think if I could go back and look back, I love the uni experience. The actual uni degree, it is not worth 9,000. That is my opinion, mainly because I realized I just learned all I learned in those 3 years. I learned in LinkedIn Learning within half a year. All that, the entire 3 year I learned that was there, and I learned it within 6 months. I learned more in 6 months than I did in 3 years there. And you can say, oh well, university builds a foundation for that, but no, because I learned the foundation before university, but when I was doing it at A levels, before I hit 18. So I'd already had that foundation. This was just literally just tacking on, and they repeated the same stuff. So I think in several degrees, it is definitely not worth going for a university. I think you could get the experience much better if you do an online course or an online certificate, quickly grab it, go try and apply for even a small job and get that experience. Because right now I'm trying to apply for an entry-level job. The entry-level jobs they ask for is 2 to 3 years work experience. And it boggles my mind, because if it's an entry-level job, how can it be asking for 2 to 3 years experience? The definition in the word entry means you're just starting out. And I think companies have just, they realize there's a saturation in the market. They want to just get the best people. They want to get the person with the most experience. And it's really, really, really sucky situation to be in. But it's the situation you're in, and you just got to make the most of it. But I think, my personal opinion, I don't think it was worth the amount of money I paid. If you said it was 1,000 a year, maybe I could get on board. But if you made it free, then I could definitely get on board. Because right now I just realized I'm looking online, and I realized that the information that I learned at university was available free. Even on Harvard actually provided on their website free online courses for computer science. So I could have just learned the stuff at Harvard, or I could have just learned the stuff on LinkedIn Online Learning, or even online, just by general browsing, you can learn this stuff yourself. I know I've got mates that, and I think Saj has probably learned this, but like, you can learn how to do stuff to your car, repairs, mods, stuff like that to your cars on YouTube. You just look up YouTube videos or instructions on YouTube, and you could do it yourself. And it's crazy that people will charge so much money when you could do it for yourself for free or very little cost. So it's a matter of whether you want to pay 9,000 and still end up in the same position as if you didn't pay that money and had the experience for those 3 years. So like, if I didn't go to university, I would have had that experience. I'm not saying I would have got a job within those 3 years, but I'm saying like, I could have got a job. I could have been working for a lot longer and had more experience to then be, when I'm now at this age, I've got that experience to then, if I'm out of a job, I can get another job. Because right now, I've actually never stayed at a company more than a year, less than a year. The longest I stayed at was 9 months, and that's not even at a company that's related to my degree. So you can see the struggle that I'm going. Like, you can, I hope you can understand what I'm going through, and why my opinion is that university for me, I don't think was worth it.
I think Long also articulated a completely parallel experience of the values of university in today, and also the
Mm.
experience, of just going through something. So it says, I had a friend who took the last semester of school off in order to pursue content creation, and he was actually succeeding. But the greatest thing he took away from the experience was that it wasn't something he wanted to pursue in the future. I love the fact that he was able to look ahead in the way he did and improve as a person.
Mm.
Absolutely, man. I think one of the many inspiring people I'm very grateful to have in my life said to me, in life, as long as you continue, as long as you can take the next day, it only serves you two things. It serves you wins or lessons. That's it. Those are the only two things you can take.
Yeah,
So,
you
right.
don't have any failures. You only have lessons to learn from. It's just
Mm,
experience. You're not starting from scratch.
that's equally
Um,
valuable, yeah, what your mate did,
mm.
man. To go through an experience and to know that's not for him, equally
Yeah,
powerful, man.
even if you are like making loads of money off it, but it's not keeping you satisfied, it doesn't necessarily mean that's something you want to do. And I think that's people lose sight of that fact that they think, oh, whatever's making them the most money must be the best thing for them. It's not always
Mm,
the fact. Not everyone is driven by money, but most of humanity is now because that's how we're brought up. Whether it's in school, we're taught we need money to pay our taxes, pay this, that, and the other. But not necessarily. You could live a life where you're not driven by money, and I think it can be lost on people sometimes that idea.
mm.
And that's the thing I think people miss on is that just because it's making you money, it doesn't mean it's keeping you happy. It's not something you want to be doing,
Yeah.
and you shouldn't look at money as a metric for your life
Mm.
for
I
sure.
think I think we've distorted the metric, right? Because money's like inches or meters. It depends how you measure things with. That's what it
Mm.
really is. And we disconnect it. We forget, obviously through thousands of generations and the beautiful mechanism that money is and the way it allows us to function, we obviously recognize its importance, but we've disconnected with why we've assigned it that importance. It's because it's an exchange for contribution, whether it be a good or service that you give someone to better their situation, better their life. That's the exchange they given you as potential for you to do something that helps your life and your unique circumstances. So therefore, we look to wealth as not only an ability for leverage and influence, but as that is in itself a marker to say that you've probably served a lot of people. You have rather served a lot of people. You have created a lot of value. You've essentially maybe employed a lot of people and fed a lot of families. And that's why we need to reconnect with the significance of wealth, not just wealth for its sake of significance. And I think that's what we forget. The same thing with cars, the same thing with watches. My dad's car had been keyed several times, but I say I can only feel so sorry for the people that see it as the material item rather than the journey of value creation that had happened in order to come to that end result. You know what I mean? And it's such a sad world when you can only focus on the end result and can't see that process that you can get involved in, that process that is also fueling your environment as well. And I think that's an important thing with money and something I've got to reconnect with myself, you know. So yeah. And also what's it long said here, see, this is one of those moments that I can connect to heavily too heavily and use to improve my life. Mate, you're improving all of our lives, man. Like,
Mm.
being able to discuss it, being able to bring it to light again is so useful for all of us. And man, for the short time I've known you, I can only say, bro, like, I can commend you for who you are. You're so personable, you're wise, obviously. Like, the quality of questions has kept this
Yeah.
conversation flowing, man. I've enjoyed it. You're personable, you're good with people, mate. I can see you're authentic, you're polite. Mate, all these traits, bro, I can only see good things for you, man. I know you're going through struggles. I can't imagine, I'm not going to pretend I can imagine. It's a unique circumstance for you, bro. But I can for sure see this is only going to be a superhuman level of capacity you're building right now. And man, I hope you keep in touch and you let me know all the victories, bro, all the victories. Because even those lessons, those struggles, man, like you said with your friend, they're a window of insight, a really deep window of insight to what didn't work. And that's so powerful, equally powerful going forward, man. So, yeah, bro, from me, massive thank you for you sticking around and making this what it was. Um,
Mm.
yeah. So
Yeah,
you've
that's
improved everyone's
long.
life.
I think long, man. You gotta just see as whatever struggles you go through. Just think of it as that's the bottom of the hill. You can only go up from there. And I think, yeah, I agree with you. I agree with Seb, man. Like, just I don't even know you that well. I know you less than Seb does know you. But just from seeing you, just from what you type on the chat, I can tell. Like, man, you got a lot of facts spitting out. You just was wise as hell, and I'm actually like I can see a lot of like good things coming from what you say, just from what you say. So imagine if you put that out there in the world, if you manifest whatever you've got, well, you got big things going, and I think that's what we should all learn from it as
No
well.
doubt, man.
Yeah.
100% faith, my bro. 100% faith. Speaking of victories, the internet should be getting fixed on Monday.
Oh shit!
Hey, so we're back
That's
to
good
some
news.
Forza. We're
Good
back to
news.
some
Good news.
Forza. Panda, mate, you need to get Forza on your computer.
Yeah. Oh, on my computer. I don't know if my computer can run Forza. Let's see. That's why I need to put on more RAM. So right now I've got the bare minimum of RAM that I'm using, and that's barely running Modern Warfare. So I think Forza takes up more, doesn't it? Or does it take up less? Do you think it takes up more than Modern Warfare? Though?
Well, Long's computer science in it. I forgot the specs, but he's not got any lightweight machine. I'm telling you that. I can't.
I know. I just never played Forza on PC. That's why. I don't have an Xbox. So I don't know how much it runs on. That's why. I don't know
Okay.
the specs for that. But yeah, I mean, is Forza? How much is Forza?
I think you can get Game Pass, which is like, yeah,
Oh, is that like Xbox, like a PlayStation Plus thing?
like a subscription. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. I need to get into. I've never been. See, this is the first time like I'm proper into PC game. Before it was just PlayStation, and that's all that I'd run because I never had a good enough PC. But now I've got a half decent PC I can improve on, build on. So I'm gonna work on that. That's gonna be like my project, and that's what I like about this kind of stuff. It gives me something to do while in lockdown. And I don't know if that's the same for you, man. But yeah, it's definitely giving me something to do. So yeah, I'll definitely hop on Forza for sure. I haven't played a racing game in a while. I think the last game I played racing was
Probably
was
GTA,
actually
isn't it?
no. I mean,
Somewhat.
I wouldn't count those driving. But I played Forza actually at my cousin's place a long time ago on his Xbox. That was actually fun. I do miss playing racing games because I remember. Do you remember Need for Speed?
Oh,
Need for
mate.
Speed 2 on Underground. Do you remember that? To me, is the best race, 100% hands down. I don't know if this is true now, but I'm saying right now that for me was the best racing game of my life. It was just so perfect in every way. The music, the design, everything, the customization of cars is just beautiful.
Bro, the body kits,
Oh
kits.
my
Man.
god! I wasn't even proper into cars. I just liked driving these cars. It was just I didn't know much about, and I still don't know much about cars. But it's just damn, man. I just like driving. Don't get me wrong, I like driving, and yeah, driving was just nice in that game. I think it's just a top tier game. I wish they remade that game for the console shit.
Oh wait, Long was saying actually, I think the new Need for Speed kind of brings a lot of elements of the older games
Okay.
into it. So I've definitely got to check it out.
Oh, the new one. The one is it out now or is it coming out soon?
Can't remember, mate. You've got to drop me a whisper on that one. I need to get my library of Need for Speed sorted. I've got no games whatsoever at the moment. Need for Speed, but yeah, man. Most Wanted, Need for Speed Underground 2, like.
Most Wanted was just a decent game as well. I like that. That's a good concept.
Always wanted it for what's it? The McLaren SLR. It's the favorite car in it.
Oh yeah. I've seen that car on the. I've seen people ride that car on like Instagram videos and stuff. They shown it. It was a while back.
Mate, beautiful car, man. I never won it though.
Do you ever remember Project Gotham on the old Xbox?
Yes,
Xbox.
mate.
So that was the first racing game I ever played. Oh my god, Project Gotham. That game was top tier. Me and my sister used to play that so much.
Trust me. Mr. Long was saying, I love Forza Horizon because I consider it more arcadey but still beautifully realistic.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you like arcadey kind of style game, then definitely Need for Speed Underground 2. I mean, Need for Speed 2 Underground was just the best. I think it's arcadey as well. It's still got that element of arcadey in it. I mean, it's not very, very realistic, but it's still quite realistic to a point. And I think it's very good for the time it came out.
I don't know
Hands
much
down, best
about
racing.
Okay. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
Need for Speed definitely arcade born and bred, man.
Can you play old games like old? Can you go backwards compatibility for the Xbox Game Pass?
Yeah, there's some
Like,
old 360 games on there.
What about the old original Xbox?
I haven't seen it on Game Pass, no. I might stick
Okay.
my old original. Oh no, I gave all my games away. Yeah, that'd be
Oh,
nice to
oh.
put like original Xbox game in there and see what it could
Yeah,
do.
that's what I wanted to see. Don't know if it could run it, dude.
Outrun 2. That was my that was my classic arcade racing game.
Outrun 2.
So it
Hold
was
on.
all Ferraris. You had a girlfriend in it. Like it was a Ferrari. It was you and your girlfriend. And literally, it was so arcadey. The graphics were pretty good. Like you could
Oh
drive one
yeah,
of the
yeah,
good
yeah,
Ferraris.
yeah. I remember.
But you'd
I actually played this in
steer
an
and you
arcade.
just see the car like move sideways.
I remember this game. I played it at actual arcade as well. It's
Yeah.
so. I
Mate,
like
and the
that game.
drifting, you just slam on the brakes and you just look like a pro in the arcade. You're just like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. Yeah.
Oh my god, that's such a good game. Yeah, I played that a few times when I went to arcade and bowling areas, bowling arenas,
Mm,
bowling alleys.
mate.
Yeah.
Belong's a serial racer, bro. He's got like 35 mil in the bank, and I was like, oh, okay, what cars you gonna buy? He was like, I've already got 700 cars, man. So like, I don't know what to do with it. I was like, fair enough.
Jeez, my
Different
guy.
level.
I need to follow. Let me follow Mr. Long on.
Yeah, give him a follow, man. Like I said, bro, once you get stream on, you've got real skill, bro. I'll tune in for sure.
Has he started streaming? Oh yeah, it
Mm, I
does.
don't think there was anything on his page yet, but he's also got fixes internet in it. So.
Okay. I see. He plays Apex Legends. Okay, I never got into that, but I might start looking at it because it looks pretty good.
Yeah, Apex.
Hmm.
It's yeah, it's all more a similar game style, isn't it? It's all what they call it. What's Warzone?
Battle Royale.
Battle Royale. Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
blown up, man.
You know what? They tapped in at the perfect time because it came to Modern Warfare came out in November, right? But the actual Warzone aspect, what they were teasing about, it came out literally on March, in the beginning, literally when lockdown happened. No, not literally when. Around the time lockdown happened, so people had nothing to do. So they played this free to play game. Everyone was on it, and I think that was their biggest success. If any other free to play did that, they would have done it for sure. They would have made it for sure.
100%.
Yeah, it was such a good that was a good thing for them. I think that was
Very
really
good. Very good PR move, man. Very,
Yeah,
very
I think Warzone stepped up. I think Call of Duty stepped up by doing Warzone because even Black Ops 4, I played Blackout, and that was okay, but it felt too much like they heavily copied um what's the game? Fortnite.
Mm,
And they heavily copied it, but it wasn't a good version of it. It wasn't a good copy. And
right.
with Warzone, I think they definitely stepped it up, and that's why they carried it on over to Black Ops as well. They didn't bother change. They make a new one. They kept it the same, which is good. Yeah, I think I need to get back. I haven't played Warzone in a minute. It's been a while since I played Warzone. I've been trying to play other games, because I'm kind of like trying to step away from Warzone. I feel like it's just getting too much,
Man,
especially at Rage.
you
Yeah.
thinking of doing a stream tonight? I don't. We've been going on for quite a long time.
Oh, it's 10:40. Oh my god!
Wow, man.
How long has it been? When did we start?
Can't remember. So it's been a 3 hour stream just gone. So man,
3
we
hours.
went
My
deep.
God.
Appreciate.
I didn't even realize we were talking for so long. I was like, are we
Yeah.
gonna? I thought we weren't gonna even have much to talk about, but we had a lot to talk about.
Bro, it's flow, man. When you go deep in life, you got Guru guiding like long. You got Sergeant
Yeah.
Ashwin popping in.
Yeah,
And,
you got let out, innit?
That's it, man. And appreciate all the guys who've followed, and put the views out there, supporting us to sort of being part of the journey. Again, shout out to Long, shout out to Panda. Yeah, hopefully
man.
more of this, man, and more growth.
Yeah.
And looking forward to progressing with everyone.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you having me on.
No, at all. Man.
Man, I've never spit like this in a while. Like it's, I think it's nice to just let it out, and I think we should do this more often.
100%.
For sure. But yeah, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on.
Nah, bro,
Appreciate
Panda,
it.
you're an inspiring guy, mate. Look, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for your streams. Yeah, like you're manifesting some real
too
stuff
much
here, mate. You're
Too much for me, man. Too much for me.
Nah, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's end the stream there. What's Long saying?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, bro. Xbox just made a great move, removing the requirement of Xbox Live to play free-to-play games online or multiplayer.
That's
Nice.
good. They actually, literally, PlayStation and thing went the opposite way because for PlayStation to play any online game, you have to have PlayStation Plus now. It used to be on the PS3; it was free.
Yep.
But now I think Xbox just went the other way with them. That's good. I think they had to because they have to compete with PlayStation
Yeah.
for sure.
No,
Yeah. Appreciate that, Long man. You have a great night as well, man. Well, I think for you it's afternoon, right? Or I don't actually know what time it is there.
Yeah.
Probably like late afternoon now. But yeah, have a good evening to you, man. And yeah, I hope to see your stream soon, man. Hopefully you get your internet sorted out soon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Long, appreciate it, man. You've been the OG backer. You've been one of the guys helping manifest this journey and this, you know, and this dialogue, bro, because you were there saying you'd be backing it and you absolutely did all the way through. So thank you so
Yeah,
much.
man, he kept it going.
So keep well, have a great week. Man, big love to everyone who supported, who's jumped into the chat as well. Make sure to check out Panda as always. If it weren't for him,
Same.
you know, I wouldn't have a beautiful face to be chatting to. So anyway, before my brain shuts down, we'll end the stream there. Keep one winning, guys.
Yeah,
See you
great,
later.
man. See you later.